Off, let's please stand if you are able, and I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, I will introduce our board of directors, and I'm going to start with Madeline. And Madeline, if we can do a sound check too, just to make sure we can hear you. Madeline, sorry, I lost my spot. Madeline de Maintenon is joining us via Zoom. And Madeline, if you can just—
I'm here.
Yay, we can hear you. And you can hear us?
Yes, yep, thank you.
All right, wonderful. We also have Jonathan Henderson, Mike Rowley, and I am Jason White. Tasha Woods is being a mom tonight. She is not going to miss the concert for her child. So good for her. She joined us for the study session, but she may be back depending if we're still going after the concert. So good for Tasha. We are also joined by Ginger Haber, Superintendent. We also have Kelly Kronbauer, our Executive Director of Student Services. We also have Kim Snyder, the Executive Director of Finance and Operations. And also Chloe Matson is here, one of our student representatives. So that is all of our introductions. So board, I think we will jump right into our consent agenda. We had the opportunity to review these items individually and as a board during our study session to seek clarification from the district admin prior to the meeting. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda. I second.
All right, Jonathan moves that we approve the consent agenda. Mike seconds. Any discussion? Then sorry, Madeline, we're going to do a roll call vote because it's going to be difficult to tell if you're voting or not. So I'm going to do a roll call vote. So I'll start with Jonathan. Mike?
Aye.
Madeline?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Consent agenda is approved. All right. So moving on to administration. First off, we have Ginger, the superintendent update.
Awesome. So board, we have a special treat tonight, a couple of important celebrations. First, we have Jason Ng is here with us tonight. Jason, if you want to come up to the podium. We have fifth grade camp is in full swing this year. We're just so thankful for that opportunity. And Jason has just been instrumental in organizing it and supporting all of our elementaries in putting fifth grade camp in place. So I said, Jason, come talk to us about fifth grade camp and the things you want to celebrate about that.
Board, thank you for having me this evening. So this year we were back to our regular fifth grade camp program, our overnight, our 3-day, 2-night program. Last year we just had a day camp because of COVID, and the year before that got canceled. So just a quick history of camp for you. I believe we started back in 1968. Wow. That was at the Lake Wenatchee YMCA camp for 13 years there. And then it moved to Camp Welch above White Pass, above Rimrock Lake for a year. And then it was at Tall Timber, which is about 15 minutes past Lake Wenatchee. So it was there for about 26 years. Wow. Then camp got cut out of the budget, and the board at the time would not allow us to fundraise. So we were eventually allowed to fundraise, and so we fundraised for about 6 years. And then Mike Nolan at the time, who's working at a district office, got it back on the budget, and we've had camp back on the budget since then. The cost of camp has kind of gone up over the years, but our budget for camp hasn't gone up. So we've kind of been over budget the last, I don't know, 6-7 years. This year, we were fortunate enough to get this outdoor schools grant, which is being funded or managed by the Washington Schools Principals Education Foundation. And so we're fortunate to get that grant this year to help us with our programming. That pays for our students and our counselors, their room and board at camp. It pays for programs such as climbing tower, archery, and zip line. And they also pay for transportation. So That was really great for us. It's a lot of stress not to have to figure out what we have to cut out of our budget so we can make it happen. And then we went ahead and applied for funds for next year for all 4 schools too. So hopefully that comes through. There's no guarantee, but hopefully that comes through. Valley View is actually at camp right now. Lincoln went last week, and then we were the first one to go this year. We love going out to Lazy F. They've got a great facility. They're great hosts. We had CW come out and teach a science class with our students out at the pond. We had Deb Essman, who is part of the Kittitas Field and Stream Club. So she comes out and teaches a class about animal tracks and animal pelts and identifying all that. We have other CW classes before come out and teach different science things. And that's in addition to our fly fishing, our climbing tower, zip line, archery classes as well. It's you kind of have to be there at camp to kind of understand how it affects the kids. We have some students that don't adapt very well to our structured classrooms. And when we take them out to camp, that unstructured outside kind of hands-on learning in the environment, it changes them in a positive way. And we see that when we come back to school, we have less behavior issues. They're more engaged. There's more buy-in from them. So it's really, we see it as a fun experience for the kids, but we also see that positive impact that they have on themselves and the rest of their classmates at school too. So any questions?
I have to assume everybody was excited to be getting to do that again.
Yes.
How many days do they go for?
We go for 3 days and 2 nights. Originally, it started out as 5 days, 4 nights, and then it got cut down to 4 days, 3 nights. And then I think we've kind of settled on 3 days and 2 nights, just because we use college students and as our counselors, and they can't always take 4 days off of classes. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Jason. I know that you are eager to get to the baseball game with your kids, but just thank you for taking the time, and thank you for helping to keep this program going. Just full support of outdoor ed. I've talked about that before, and we're going to always look at ways that we can fund that for our students. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite Sia Ronica up. She is just really doing amazing programming with our students. And, oh, look at that. And just really want to thank her for what she's doing with them right now around really passing along and demonstrating appreciation for our Native American culture.
Sia Aronica, Washnasha Sikwetla, Ichishkin Sinwit Ku, Tanawit Payutmita. I am the teacher at the after school program right now of Ichishkin language and indigenous culture. What I brought up front for you to see is some of the work that our students have done. We've had a couple of sessions. So as you can see here, we have some pictures of our students doing beadworking, and the stitch that they have learned, our teacher that came in is brick stitch, and they have been working on different styles of earrings. Some of them have made 1 pair, some of them have made 2 or 3 pairs, some of them have progressed into, designing their own pairs. Sorry, I'm not good at holding my hand still, so I'm trying to keep them there. Anyway, so they are designing some of their own, but they are becoming really good, and you can see the smiles on the faces as they have achieved that, because it is a skill that is definitely something cool. The next thing that we have done, if you can switch that slide, we have done a weaving session. We brought in a master weaver, and she brought in her mother, which is awesome to have elders in our class, and she helped us some of the weaving, the twining that is done there is the baskets that they're working on. And that is a traditional weeding technique. And Wapanayat, or Bessie, she said her mother does her finishing work, so her mother came to help our kids do finishing work. So we greatly appreciated that. And part of our tradition and culture is when we make, we gift and we pay forward. And so in this far picture, David, one of our students, he finished his wupas and he did some finishing work, but David also made an extra pair of earrings for our program, and he gifted them to Lucinda as a pay forward, as she wasn't necessarily somebody that we planned on being there. So it was to honor her with something that he had done. And so that was a really cool moment for our kids to see their work paying forward into that and be part of that cultural exchange. So that was a really neat thing. And then the next thing that we're doing, if you can go ahead and switch, we originally started our sessions as a unit session for things, but as we found out, and this is our first time doing it, sometimes things take a little longer. Not everybody works at the same pace, and we don't always get our projects done in our allotted time. So I have kept open our Tuesday afternoons as a drop-in, and our students, we have elementary school students through high school students, we have middle school students, we have parents, we have community members, we have teachers. It has become a safe space for our students to come and work on projects, to learn language, use language. David is a Quinault speaker. We have Mila, who is a Cherokee speaker. We have Mercy and Grace, who do Choctaw. And so it's a safe space where they can bring in what they know, bring in their culture. We have different tribes, and we're learning lots of different techniques. We can see the weaving here. We've got some dream catchers going on. And so I just wanted to share that it is an amazing thing. And we are so grateful to have our grant and to be able to get this program up and going and watching it grow and blossom, and how it has helped our kids feel connected to that culture and to that ability to be together and recognize that. So it's a really, really awesome thing. Not all of our kids are Native. We have had some students that have been brought in as friends and, hey, let me show you this, or hey, I want to do that. So it's been a really fun thing. So we will continue to do sessions. Keep your eyes open. We'll get those posted on websites and things like that. But thank you for letting us have that. Aukla.
So do you guys have any questions for Sia? Sia,
No.
thank you so much.
Excellent. Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah.
It's
Thank
just
you.
such a wonderful experience for our students, Sia. So thank you so much. We're just so thankful to have you and your talent. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for a minute. There it is. So again, just want to say a thank you to our voters for supporting our levy. It was really great to have, especially like music and theater and back into full swing with Clue and Legally Blonde and our choir and our band. It's just been great just to have that feeling of being back in full swing, and just appreciate our fine arts teachers and everything that they do for students to really engage them. So just some highlights of things that I've been doing the last couple of weeks. I'm trying to move this out of the way. I attended the community input session on May 16th regarding the adoption of the curriculum, and thank you to Jen Kuhn. She's here tonight, and along with teachers that were on that committee to share about that adoption process. We had several families that showed up and parents, and they were asking really good questions, and just really thank the people on the committee. Teachers that were there just were very eloquent and very knowledgeable about the curriculum, and I think really helped parents to understand why we chose the ones that we did to bring for adoption. So I just thought overall it was a real successful night. I meet monthly with our EEA presidents. As you know, we are looking at a joint statement with the city and CWU regarding no tolerance for bullying, intimidation, and discrimination. And I did talk to Linda Shackler today. I'm kind of working with her and with Heidi to see how we can maybe have a dialogue around that as we develop that statement. We do have a celebration, and I sent this out to all staff. Rhonda Schmidt will be our new ESD Alternative Learning Programming. She'll be our new principal. She is at Twin Rivers School and Parent Partnership in Snoqualmie Valley School District, and she's excited to be here. I facilitated the last Superintendent WASA meeting with ESD 105 superintendents as their president for the 21-22 school year. And one of the things that was really important to me is we had a through line of equity the first hour of each one of those meetings. And it was really a great time to pull superintendents together and to talk about what we were doing around equity and what we wanted to set some goals together and how we could support each other with that. Did spend time in preparations and planning. As you know, we're in negotiations with our teachers union right now, EEA. And we had our first student-centered learning committee. We focused on alternative learning. Jared Bronkema did a nice job reviewing what alternative learning programming is about, kind of where we're at, and really highlighting the importance for personalized learning and project-based learning and wanting to do more of that with our students as we move forward. And then Jason, you and I met with the EHS students Friday afternoon and gained some really valuable insights. We had a real diverse group of students that we met with and found that really valuable. And I think we want to try to find a way to have an ongoing way of meeting with students, especially into next year. I did do an end of the year presentation to our Chamber of Commerce Executive Board this week. Participate along with principals, our ongoing solution tree training around professional learning communities. And I do want to do a shout out to Lee Bates. When I first got here, he invited me to the Valley Voices Community Choir to be in a concert for Habitat for Humanity. It was a fundraiser, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, but he just really encouraged me to. So I did it. And when the pandemic hit, we had to stop. And Jan Jaffe reached out to me, encouraged me to be a part of it. And so I joined it again. And last night was our first session together, but I would have never known about it or even thought about joining it without Lee inviting me to do that. So I just appreciate him and all of the work that he put into that, getting it started. On June 8th, we have an open house for all elementary parents. As we shift to 4 schools, it really gives all of the parents an opportunity to visit the new schools and kind of see if, especially if they're going to school that they're not currently in, gives them a chance to meet the principal, to meet the staff members. And so we're excited about that. It's during our board meeting, but between 5 and 6 for our study session is shorter. We could walk around here and it'll give us a good chance to meet some parents that are coming here to Ida. And then June 1st, we have our Excellence in Ellensburg Awards. We have many staff members, parents, community members, teams that we're going to be celebrating at 6:30 at Morgan Middle School's Performing Arts, and we'd love to have all of our board members there. June 9th, of course, is graduation out on Andreotti Field. It says 8 p.m. If you guys are able to get there like around 6:57, we have programs, and it'd be great if board members want to help hand out the programs. We did that last year. It's just a great way to meet families as they come in. And then June 10th, the students from Excel, they are still walking in graduation, but we really have a huge celebration. I think this is one of our largest graduating classes and wanted to have a special celebration just for them. So they are going to have a nice celebration on the 10th. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Ginger. Board, any questions for Ginger? All right. So next on business, we have the OAC update and bond projects. Oh, I skipped. Whoa,
Oh, wait, CT.
thank you, Leslie. My eyes crossed. Well, sorry about that, Nathan. Okay. CTE updates and celebrations. Sorry.
And Shannon Panettone, thank you for being here. Just really appreciate you. I know that you put a lot of work into CTE every year, and so do your teachers, and we have a lot going and a lot to celebrate with CTE.
Thank you. Yes, and good evening. We do have lots to celebrate in CTE, especially this year. That didn't work. There we go. And, you know, it was great this year. We got to expand and add some classes as well as some staff members. Did I do something? Some added staff members to our CTE staff. And so it's been a great year, and I've decided to highlight tonight to try and keep it short for everyone. I wanted to highlight 3 areas that we cover in CTE, and that's dual credit, industry recognized credentials, and then of course our CTSOs and our clubs that we have within CTE. So I'll start with dual credit, and we have dual credit that is from 3 different community colleges. And the first one is Yakima Valley College. And under agriculture, we have our agricultural biology that receives 5 credits in their intro to plant sciences. And we have 31 students out of those classes earn the dual credit. In our new egg capstone class, we have articulated with YVC for technical writing, 5 credits. And we have 11 students that have earned the dual credit. In our egg science, we have an intro to egg and fundamentals of electrical 1 lab. So a total of 7 credits, and we had 53 students earn those credits. And last on this Yakima Valley for agriculture, animal science, in the intro to animal science, 5 credits, we had 17 students earn. We also have been talking a lot with computer science, especially, and with the family and consumer science programs. We're looking at expanding and looking at articulating a couple more courses to our classes, especially our child development, with some intro to early childhood education, health, safety, and nutrition. And also with computer science, looking at adding their CS 141, which is Computer Science 1 Java.
Awesome.
With Wenatchee Valley College, we have a couple more classes in our ag department. And so for natural resources, they have earned 3 credits and 9 students have earned that for natural resource management. And for our metals in a basic welding 3 credit class, we have about 40 students in welding that have earned that dual credit.
That's awesome.
With Spokane Falls, this is a new one for us this year. And so we need to work a little bit more on advertising it a little bit more and so forth. And under the skilled and technical, if a student completes both photography 1 and photography 2, they have an opportunity to earn 5 credits in the digital photography. And currently for this year, we had 2 students that had earned that dual credit. For our industry recognized credentials, this is where these certificates validate students' knowledge and skills. We have in agriculture, the AMSA, and I know you're going to ask me what that stands for, and I'm going to do my best here. I believe it's the American Meat Science Association. And we had 4 students earn that certificate. And the second one here, the NHJTCA, thank you. Management and evaluation, we have 1 student earn that one as well. Under business and marketing education, we offer students the opportunity in our career choices classes to earn an industry certified certificate under 21st century skills. And currently we have 53 students who have earned that, but we are ending 2nd semester. And so we will have more students who have earned that here in the next couple of weeks. Computer science. I have to move this because this is what's bugging me here. We have AP Computer Science Principals who we had 19 students earn a certificate in MTA Introduction to Programming using Python. And for CSA, they have earned the MTA in Introduction to Programming for Java, and that was 8 students who have earned that one. Under cybersecurity, the security fundamentals, we had 8 students earn recognition there. And then for video game design under Unity certified user, the programmer, we had 1 student as well as 1 student for software development fundamentals. And of course, family consumer science. In our child development, we have first aid CPR that has been earned of 15 students who have done that. And in our foods and nutrition with the Washington State Food Handlers Permit, we had a total of 92 students earn their food handlers permits. We are looking at certificates for next year. We have a training available in the fall for our family consumer science teachers to attend and get certified in ServSafe, which is a new certification. And so they are hoping to be able to offer that to students starting second semester next year. And then, of course, I don't want to leave Morgan Middle School out because they're doing a fabulous job as well. And Joelle Bose is doing a great job with Microsoft Office certification. So we have 20 kids that have earned their Word certification, 5 in Excel, and 20 in PowerPoint. And then she also wanted me to note that in Python, she does have some kids that will have the opportunity to test this semester. And so that number of students will be determined here shortly. Switching over to our career and technical student organizations, we have about 4 of these organizations currently. DECA, they had area results here in DECA 10. DECA Area 10 is their regional conference, which then qualifies them to go on to state. And so we had a few people place here and 3 students that qualified for state. Unfortunately, with the restrictions at that time when state conference was going to be held in King County and the COVID restrictions, our students were not able to go on to state this year, but we're rooting for them to go on next year. FBLA state leadership conference results. We had many people place in various events here. And first through fourth place automatically can move on to nationals, which is in Chicago, Illinois this year. And those students will be hopefully moving on and get permission to travel and participate in those national conference. And I could tell you that the ones that are placed in nationals right now is the Introduction to Event Planning. So we have Max Steele and Avery Nemroy. And then sports and management, entertainment management, and that's going to be Avery Nemro and Briar Wilson. FFA state convention results, they're going to still continue to come in as the advisors will be traveling next week to finish their state convention. But we do have a first place horse evaluation team, and then you can see that individuals have been placed according to what I've been told today. They have a team evaluation, so they're placed by the team for first place, and then they do individual placing of students 1st through 10th. And so you can see that they're doing an excellent job there. We have some students that have earned their FFA degree and American FFA degree, and some others there as well. And like I said, there's more to come, but we do know at this point with what has been done that we have a horse evaluation team that is guaranteed nationals, which takes place in October. TSA, or Technology Students Association, their state conference results are listed here. And they are on to nationals in Dallas, Texas, June 26th through the 30th. There are 16 total students that participated at state and 4 students that are moving on to nationals. And in addition, TSA is offering coding camps this summer. And so I promised Mrs. Price that I would plug that in if students are interested in registering. And I just want to add, we do have a construction club at the high school and one at Morgan. And I won't read all of this to you, but Mr. Wilson at the high school was able to take 3 students to a construction competition in Wapato High School back in April. And they had two components that they were scored in, which was math skills, and and the other was construction skills. And they placed first and finished their construction skills 2 hours before the next team was finished. So kudos to them and a job well done. And then, of course, at Morgan, we have the Woodworking Club this year has been mostly a continuation of topics that they've learned in class, and then more. And so they're excited about learning and growing and learning the skills. They're taking projects further and are looking forward to new skills. They're also working on CNC router, trying to get that up and going. And they did and were successfully made some name badges. And they plan to learn to use it and carve not just name badges, but signs, but also 3D sculptural and functional objects as well. And that's what I have so far. But there are a lot more celebrations that we could talk about, but I know time is limited, so I will entertain any questions if there are any.
No. Thank you so much, Shannon. No, it looks like we have no questions. Excellent. Love seeing it all. It's great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, making sure I'm on the right line this time. We will now move to business. And first up in business is adoption of the new curriculum. And that's quite a bit. So take it away, Jen.
All right, thank you. And I am getting a notification that my internet connection is unstable. So Leslie, at some point I might have to have you take over the, yeah, hopefully it stays, but. So thank you for having me here tonight to talk about our proposed curriculum for adoption this year. And I kind of want to apologize in advance. There are a number of different items that we're proposing for adoption tonight. And so it is going to take a bit of time to get through each one of these, but this is the culmination of a year's worth of work around these different content areas. And we have teachers, as Ginger mentioned earlier, here tonight to help us propose these and provide information on these. So I want to honor all that hard work and give you guys the information that you need to be able to vote on approving these or not. So these are the different content areas: K-5 music, K-2 phonics, K-5 health and fitness, K-8 social emotional learning, and 4-12 health, which really includes 4-5 maturation and 6-12 health. And I want to start by thanking everyone who was involved in this process, because it was a lengthy process of identifying materials, looking at what our needs are, looking at resources, looking at all of the proposals that come in, piloting them in classrooms, attending meetings to talk about it. So we do have some people here tonight, like I said, that will help present. We've got Shanna Simonson and actually Carol Aldridge now is also here in person for music. And I don't know if Shanna's going to be able to stay because she's, like Tasha, has to go do some mom things tonight. But we also have Levi Botten here and Rachel Crosby, and online on Zoom, we have Peggy Kelleher and Levi Teasley to help look at these different areas. But in addition to that, we had a number of people that I just want to make sure I thank for being part of this process. So all the time they spent looking at these materials and making decisions and having conversations, particularly around looking at our comprehensive sexual health ed. And so I'd like to thank Julie Hamilton, Bo Snow, Aaron Chatterton, Mallory Benfield, Cynthia Hilburn, Scott Robertson, Tom Wilson, Jason Ing, Sid Peterson, Carrie Armstrong, Kevin Jorsvik, Del Highstand, Michelle Bibbich, Shannon Selzler, and Rob Moffitt. All of them played a part in helping us make decisions around these curricula. And so thank you to them. as Ginger mentioned, we did have a community input session. That was a first in our adoption process. And I came earlier to talk to you guys just to give you a heads up about that and kind of give you a reason why. But really knowing that this year we are going to be looking at renewing our comprehensive sex ed materials, and that is an area that's going to have heightened interest and concern from the community and from parents. I thought it was really important that we be able to have a community input session before you guys are making a decision on it, before our instructional materials committee makes a decision on it. But we looked at all of the content areas, and moving forward as part of our adoption process, we'll include that in the process because I think it's really important to be able to have that opportunity to provide the information in a more back and forth dialogue setting where they can ask questions, et cetera, before we're here at the board meeting asking for approval. So we did get input. Everything that was provided in that session was electronically recorded. You guys have access to that. It's on the board docs, and I'll probably address some of them as we go along in the presentation. So without further ado, we are going to start with our proposal for K-5 music, which is game plan.
Hello, I'm Shanna Simonson. I teach elementary music at Mount Stewart. And in looking at curriculums for K-5 music, we came upon game plan and love the curriculum as it aligns with the Washington State K-5 and the National Association for Music Education pre-K through 8 national standards for music education, which the overarching standards are create, perform, respond, and connect. We love that it's an interactive curriculum for students. Students sing, play instruments, play music games, do movement, do listening activities. They're learning music theory, even as young as kindergarten, first grade, rhythms, notes, note names of the treble clef for a few examples. And we love on how the curriculum builds on music skills from year to year. So those are our general thoughts about the curriculum and what we really love about it. So the materials are behind you on the steps if you're interested in looking at them. Didn't know if you had any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And then I'm not sure how you guys want to run this because there's all these different curricula. Would you like to vote at the end or vote after each one?
It's a great question. So board, something for us to consider, right, is that there are multiple curriculi that we are considering. So if there are any concerns, board, you can, we will, this is an action item. So when that, if there's any concerns with any of the particular curriculum, we can vote on all of them once on one vote if we're good with it, but also if there are concerns, we could separate them out. So that is something that the board can decide to do when we get to the action items. But I think for now, unless the board tells me otherwise, I'd say keep moving forward, Jen, with all of them. And then when we open it up for board discussion, the board can then decide how they'd like to move forward.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shanna. Another thing I'd like to say about music is in particular is that it's exciting to be having a consistent curriculum across all 4 schools for next year. That'll be a first. And so I'm excited for that reason too, to be proposing a curriculum for adoption for K-5 music. And I've included costs for each of these. And so this is the K-5 music cost. Numbers are approximate because we're still trying to nail down exactly which items for which teachers and which buildings and all of those pieces, but they're going to be pretty close numbers. So this would be the K-5 music cost. And next up, we have K-2 phonics, which we are proposing that we adopt the IMSE scope and sequence and strategies for our phonics instruction K2. And I will give a little bit of background information here, but Peggy Kelleher, I believe, is still maybe online, and she's gonna need to be unmuted so she can do her part as well. But a little bit of background for why we are proposing K2 phonics when we not just a few years ago adopted a reading curriculum K-5 that we love very much, and that is Fontes and Pinnell Classroom, FPC. Fontes and Pinnell Classroom FPC has 7 different contexts. So it has interactive read aloud, shared reading, guided reading, book clubs, mini lessons. I forget what I'm forgetting, but the phonics spelling and study word system. And that particular portion of it, we love all of it, but that one context out of the 7 is a little bit weak. And we know that we needed something different for our students. And so we have actually known that for a couple of years and known that we need to layer in some better foundational skill support and more direct foundational skill support. And then also RCW, that is the dyslexia law that says that we now have to, starting this year, actually screen all students K2 annually for signs of dyslexia. And as part of that law, they specifically say not only do we have to have multi-tiered systems of support in place that we can articulate what those are for our K2 students, but we have to be using multisensory approaches to reading instruction. And that portion of the context of FPC didn't have a strong multisensory approach. And so we knew that we needed something better there as well. As background, we have in our P5 classrooms a balanced literacy approach. And here's the little sort of visual for that. What that means is we designate and carve out time specifically for each one of these different contexts so that we make sure that we have those different scaffolds in place for students when instructing and reading. And of course, at the primary grades under language, that phonics instruction is super important. It is critical. And so that is one of our designated things. It's also integrated into some of those other pieces. But like I said, we needed a stronger system for the designated part. And Peggy, did you find her? Is she still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Peggy.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And just to give you a little idea of what the Orton-Gillingham approach is, I'm going to start from the bottom up. It is language-based, very phonetic. It starts with very simple sound symbol relationships and progresses through to the more complex concepts. And the nice thing about the IMSE approach and strategy is that it uses the same routines throughout. So a student in kindergarten learning those really simple routines also build on that same model and learn the more complex. It's flexible. And so those students that are catching on quickly can continue to do that, but it also gives opportunity for students to review previously learned concepts in those same routines. It's structured, sequential, and cumulative. Again, it has those, you're building on concepts daily. And then the last part, and probably the most unique part, is that multi-sensory approach. And that is where you incorporate different senses into more than 2 or more senses in the acquisition of a new skill. So if we could turn the, I don't know, there we go. And so the idea, this one slide just indicates kind of how up at the top right, or excuse me, top left, is how when you activate your visual sense, you're activating a certain part of your brain. And then when you activate an auditory part, you're activating a completely different part of your brain. And same thing with tactile, smell, and touch. And so the idea behind this is that the more we activate our brain, the stronger our brain pathways are for us to be able to acquire information and then retain that information. It also not just builds stronger pathways, but it also can create new pathways. And so building in multi-sensory approaches, specifically visual, auditory, and tactile senses, tend to be very successful. And then the next slide. And so we kind of wonder, what does multisensory really mean? And it's using, engaging at least 2 or more senses when you teach a new skill, such as auditory and visual together, or auditory and tactile, auditory and smell. And by using these strategies, you're engaging all different areas of the brain in order to develop those strong memories. Another component to the Orton-Gillingham approach is that these routines and these strategies are very deliberate and intentional. For example, they use senses and combinations that work well together and help students connect with language to words. And they also use directionality. So everything is from left to right. So when you are reading, we read left to right. So are those routines. And then the next one. And next slide, please. Okay, so these are just 3 slides to show you what multisensory might look like. So this is a student combining auditory and tactile. The teacher would be saying a sound, and so the student would hear that sound auditorily and then have a tactile experience of writing that sound down. In addition to that tactile experience, the student is also verbally stating and repeating what the teacher is saying. So she's stating the sound, the C says k, and she's writing it at the same time, building that motor memory. Next slide. And then here's another picture of building muscle memory. This is a picture of 2 students who are learning a memory. They are learning a way to spell an irregular word. And so they're combining verbal and gross motor, and they're spelling words down the side of their arm several times. And they use that routine in combination with another fine motor activity. And it is meant to help them memorize certain spelling words that are not phonetic. Next slide. And this last slide is a picture of one of my students who is combining visual with tactile. So on his paper, he has visual lines with symbols that help him remember what a blend looks like or what a blend is. And in each sound that he's writing goes on a sound line. With his tapping hand, his fingers that he's tapping, he is taking each sound that he hears and slowly saying that sound and writing it at the same time. So he's really putting that sound into his brain and writing it at the same time. And so those are just examples of what the multisensory component looks like. I've had the opportunity to use these strategies in my classroom for the last 2.5 years, and it's phenomenal. I've also had the opportunity to see kindergarten teachers and first grade teachers do not only go to the training, but now they're implementing these strategies in the classroom. And it not only is highly effective because it's based on science, and when implemented well, it works really well, but the students are also so engaged. Not every child learns the same. So when you're accessing different intelligences, whether it's visual or auditory, musical, in with your learning, then students learn and retain that information much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. And yes, I should have probably also in that, thanks of everyone who was involved. Peggy and Shannon Selzler and Julia Hamilton have met multiple times with K2 teachers, a team of K2 teachers over this year, and they are very excited, I think, across the board to have this consistency in place and not have to feel like each classroom and teacher is pulling from different places to put something together and not knowing if it's the same scope and sequence as the classroom next to us. So yeah, extremely exciting to be getting this piece in place for our K2 students. And so K2 phonics cost. The training is the largest cost of this. And we've actually been working on training teachers over the last couple of years. We started with our SPED teachers saying, hey, they really need this in their classrooms. Peggy has gone through extensive training, and but we realized, oh, we need more trained. We need to be making this part of our core instruction and part of our core way that we teach these foundational skills. It is a 5-day training. So it's a long training all day, very intensive, but teachers have walked away, I think, feeling like it was some of the most valuable PD they've ever had. So the largest cost is in the training cost. We've trained 39 teachers at this point in 7 paras. Materials for all K2 teachers is going to run around $10,000. And those are for things like that board that Peggy showed that had the sand in it, materials like that to outfit classrooms with. And then there is an annual license renewal cost of $80 per year per teacher. And that's for the IMSE access to the IMSE digital information. Before we move on to any questions on that one in particular?
I don't have any questions, but it's impressive.
It's exciting.
Yes, and I appreciate all the hard work that's been going into this. I remember when this one was first introduced to us a long time ago, and I was fascinated by it. I'm someone who was a slow reader, and it took me a while, and thank goodness there was phonics, because that's how I started picking up. And I was like, all these strategies are just fascinating. So kudos to all the hard workers and all those hard teachers that have pushed this forward. I love what I'm seeing. So
Yeah.
thank you.
It's fascinating too, the brain, the learning about like what happens in the brain when kids learn to read. And I do think that it is, maybe shouldn't go without saying, I want to emphasize that we are not swinging our pendulum with reading instruction, that we're really keeping that balanced approach, because I think when it swings too far one way or the other, with all the stuff out there, then kids miss out on important components of reading. So we need to beef up this part of it, but we're not going to give up on all of the other important pieces of balanced literacy. Okay, so now we're moving on to K-5 health and fitness. And for this one, we are recommending focused fitness. And Levi Teasley should be online.
All right, can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Levi.
Okay, hi. I don't know if you can see me or not. Or if
No.
you need to be able to see me. I can turn my video on if I'm able to.
Whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I think the host needs.
We've got your slides up though.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, first thing, I just want to thank Ginger Haberer and the board for the opportunity to just share a little bit about physical education and just the opportunity we have to adopt this curriculum. I want to especially thank Jen Coons for just all her hard work in this process, for leading us. And big thank yous out to Rob Moffitt and Dell Highstand, who were just huge parts in the entire process, being part of our committee. And then my team of physical education teachers at each of the elementary schools, Jason Ng, Tom Wilson, and Scott Robertson. So I'm very passionate about PE, and
Levi, we lost you. We just want to make sure in case you can hear us.
yeah, I can hear you. Are you hearing me okay?
Now we can.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You left off at, I'm very passionate about PE. That's the last thing we heard.
and teaching elementary school, and I've loved both, and I'm having a blast every day teaching our K-5 students at Valley View. So why physical education? Again, I'm very passionate about it. With PE, you see right here, students can increase their level of physical activity. I think this is always critical, but just thinking about what we came out of, I am just loving seeing kids back in the gym, back in their physical activity outside of school time, at recess, all these opportunities for kids to move and to move together. We're looking at improved grades and test scores, and helping kids stay on task in the classroom. As far as increase in PE time, we're not looking at any decrease in students' academic achievement. So PE is critical. Go and hit to the next slide. You know, PE, I think sometimes gets a bad name, not being, you know, kids aren't learning in there. So we definitely hit all three domains of learning in physical education, the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So kids learning about not only how to move, but why they're moving. And that'll tie in definitely why we decided to go with focus fitness, the why behind moving and movement. Again, loving seeing kids together again and moving and learning together. So the affective side, growth in feelings and attitudes and behaviors for healthy living, kids learning to work together. Team building is one of my favorite things to do in physical education, and what an awesome place to do it. And then we definitely know in PE, psychomotor, kids learning skills for active living and practicing those skills, and being encouraged and motivated to continue to work on their skills outside of the classroom. And here's the big piece that we're here for tonight is it is a planned, sequential, standards-based curricula tied with great instruction. Next slide. So I decided to put in here the essential components of PE, and looking at policy and environment, curriculum, appropriate instruction, and student assessment. So as far as policy, I just hit two key components for policy, requiring PE for all. Again, I'm passionate about it. I know how important it is for kids, and we want every student to have the opportunity to take physical education, especially in our school district. And then elementary students, we want to continue to increase the number of minutes. The recommended minutes is 150. So that's something we want to keep building and growing, the amount of minutes that our kids are in physical education. And I'm excited to see my kids more often next year as we break up into 4 schools, and kids have the opportunity to come to PE more often. And here's the curriculum piece. Curriculum for grades K through 12 should be sequential and comprehensive. And that's our goal. When I came into the Ellensburg School District, I was blessed to come in right at the end of a PEP grant that our school district was awarded and put a lot of work into. And some of the amazing things that we have right now for physical education. If, for example, you go into our high school and you see the awesome rock wall that's in there, that was part of the PEP grant. And there was a lot of collaboration between the teachers, the physical education teachers at the time, to work together to align and develop curriculum. And there's been some time since that happened, and I just thought, what a great opportunity, and again, feel blessed for after my first year to be in elementary, to be going through this process again and re-looking at our curriculum and the opportunity to adopt a new one. So our curriculum being based on national and state standards, and the grade level outcomes for PE. And then we tie in instruction, appropriate instruction. So evaluating kids learning constantly. A big one, students be engaged in moderate to vigorous activity for at least 50% of the time, hopefully more. And again, that ties back to a big reason why we selected Focus Fitness. Kids learning these cognitive concepts, but doing so and continue to move. And then, of course, make sure we are inclusive of all students, of all abilities in physical education. And then, again, with assessment, aligning our assessment with our national and state standards, and making sure our grading is connected with our student learning objectives and our curriculum. Next slide. So I wanted to put the standards in here. These are the physical education standards. And what I don't have in here, and I like how it's worded, the Shape Washington, which is our Society for Health and Physical Education, our overseeing organization for PE. They have a document that puts these standards into for an elementary student, what it means to them. So standard 1 for a student is, they say, I have the skills to move and play. Standard 2, I show that I know how to move and use a plan when I play games. Standard 3, I show that I know how to get fit and stay fit. Standard 4, I act fairly and respectfully when I play. And then standard 5, I know why it is important to be physically active. So this is obviously a critical piece. We wanted our curriculum to be aligned with the standards, and it is. Go ahead, next slide. This is a great roadmap when we talk about aligning our curriculum K-12, a roadmap. So at the elementary level, kids are gaining those foundational skills, knowledge, and values. So this is where focused fitness is going to be at. And then they get into middle school, applying the skills, high school, lifetime activities skills, and then beyond, having a physically active lifestyle. Go ahead, next slide. So now I'm getting to it. Why focused fitness? So I went back to those essential components of PE and highlighted curriculum and student assessment. This is what we're gaining through this curriculum, these 2 components. And my first bullet here is the big gain for us is it's going to assist the elementary PE teachers in teaching the why behind keeping our bodies fit and healthy. When we looked at other curriculum during the process, there were some good ones out there, but we really felt like focused fitness was the best why behind it and helping us teach the why. Also an opportunity to unify us. I said when I first come into the district, we kind of went through this curriculum development process, but it's been a while, and there's different teachers in different positions now, and it's a great opportunity to unify now all 4 elementary PE teachers and buildings and align our curriculum with the Washington State standards. It is a Washington company, so thinking ahead to training, they're based out of Spokane, so some easier access to training. I already mentioned the PE standards, and then an opportunity in the future, even if it's moving forward, an opportunity to expand to our middle and high school level with the program. Go ahead, next slide. So I'll just hit and highlight. These are highlights from Focus Fitness, the 5 for Life curriculum that we are proposing, and just things that we like. We talk about the why. So there's really fun activities that teach concepts like the 5 components of fitness, human anatomy, fitness planning, that are all, and nutrition, which are all part of the standards. Fun activities as far as just teaching fundamental motor skills, essential questions. I really liked the essential vocabulary. So again, getting each of us on the same page with vocabulary. So these concepts are again, they're unified at all the buildings. And then when we look at our formative assessments and summative assessments, getting those all aligned between buildings. And of course, as I said before, alignment with our standards. Go ahead, next slide. So this is going to be hard for you guys to see. I don't know how big this is showing up on your screen, but just an example of one of the lesson plans I wanted to put up for grades 4-5. And actually this particular lesson came up in some of our meetings and discussions. So this is risk factor 4-square for grades 4 and 5. The objective is students will be able to name risk factors for heart disease. So if you've played 4-square before or seen it happen maybe out on a playground, think of a little bit larger side with more students. Me personally would probably adapt some of the equipment that we would use for this activity. But each of the ball that's being used is representing a risk factor. So the goal is you don't want all 4 to be in the same square. So that's part of the competition piece. Kids are working on volleying skills, great hand-eye coordination, excellent agility. And this activity would focus on standard 3 on the PE side. And then when I look at the health side, we're looking at the wellness standard, and I plugged it in here, an opportunity for us to discuss and learn about preventing debilitating or life-threatening diseases, and even how heredity can affect our personal health when we're looking at risk factors. So again, an opportunity for kids to learn the why, but do so by movement. Go ahead, next slide. So what's next for elementary physical education? Well, the next step would be training in the curriculum. And I know in the training process, they would help us with some of our alignment and making sure our essential outcomes and our alignment K-5 through all 4 buildings. And then really this next year to teach, to use it, to reflect on each lesson and adapt to make sure it's meeting the needs of all of our students. Appreciate you guys listening. Are there any questions?
Levi, I just want to do a shout out to you. I know last time I was at Valley View, Rob and I had a chance to go to your class, and you handed us the drumsticks, and we were in there drumming on the bouncy balls right along with the students and with you, and just saw just the joy of physical activity. Students were having fun, we were having fun, you were having fun, and just really seeing the benefit of that physical activity. So thank you for inviting us to join you.
Thank you for coming anytime.
Board, any other questions for Levi? All right. Thank you, Levi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Levi. Yeah, and I want to build off some of what he said too. When he's talking about essential outcomes and alignment K-5, one of the challenges, which we'll look at in a little bit when we look at health materials, but one of the challenges when thinking about how do we cover our health standards is there's so many pieces that fall under the health umbrella when we look at those standards, that making sure we identify who's responsible for teaching which portions of health. And so we had that conversation with our K-5 health and fitness teachers to see, well, if we were to incorporate some of those health standards, like he referenced the wellness one with that activity, what would that look like? And so that's one of the really important pieces of this particular curriculum is it integrates it in a way that doesn't minimize movement, because that was really important to our health and fitness teachers, that we don't pause movement for kids to talk about health standards. So they're doing both of it kind of at once. It does a beautiful job of integrating them. And yes, I just also thank you, Levi, for coming and talking about PE. I'd also like to point out that getting back on an adoption cycle where we are looking at certain content areas every year and analyzing what are our needs, how do we need to fill them, is important for many reasons, as I've expressed to you guys. But I also think it's important to be on a regular schedule of hearing these different content areas that you may not otherwise have a frequent opportunity to hear about, like PE. So thank you, Levi, for sharing all of that. References. So the cost of the Focus Fitness, the curriculum, which would include curriculum, the digital platform, which includes a lot of different pieces, online rubrics, assessments, data warehouse resources, and then an update to their equipment will be about $51,000. Okay, so now we come to our pieces of health health adoption, which we kind of just touched on with Focus Fitness a little bit. But I want to reiterate why this particular content area was challenging. It's also why you see, and this presentation is taking so long, again, my apologies, but there's so much that falls under the umbrella of health. So when we have an adoption year, this year it was music and PE and health, there's a lot that comes under health. And then we had phonics in there as well because it was much too critical to wait. But when we look at health, when we talk about health standards, we're talking about the SEL standards, the social emotional learning standards. We're talking about health standards, and there's actually a lot of overlap between the two of those. When you look, they are separate, but when you look at them, you see similar content in some of the areas. And under the health standards, they have, OSPI sets up these 5 core ideas in their health standards: wellness, safety, nutrition, social emotional health, substance abuse, and sexual health. Under sexual health, we have a lot of different guidelines and requirements that sort of guide us in what kind of materials and what topics we need to cover. So we've got the HIV/AIDS prevention education law, which has been in place since like the mid-90s, I want to say, that says starting in 5th grade annually, we have to cover for kids HIV/AIDS prevention education. So kind of under that, because of how the topics overlap, that kind of falls under there. We have the new comprehensive sexual health education law, relatively new at this point, that has some requirements I'll talk about in a second. And then previous to the Washington state law around comprehensive sexual health education, we had a law that said that any district that is teaching comprehensive sex ed has to include elements around sex offenses, including minors. And so because we have had comprehensive sex ed in our district for over a decade, that has been a law that's applied to us for a while. But when we're looking at materials to adopt, we kind of have to balance all of these things and consider, is there something that fits the bill for all of them? Well, we didn't find something like that. We didn't find the unicorn out there that covered cell really well and health really well and PE really well. And so this is where we get to kind of putting together different pieces to make sure that we have a good comprehensive health program in place for students. So we're going to start with the K-8, our recommendation for K-8 social emotional learning, which is 2nd step.
Hi, I'm Rachel Crosby. I'm a school counselor at Valley View. And just a brief overview of 2nd steps. We chose it for a lot of reasons, but it was a simple, direct, explicit way to teach the basic social emotional skills that we just felt were super important for kids to be successful in the classroom and just in life in general. The lessons are quick, they're fun, they incorporate different pieces, music, reinforcement activities, brain builders. And there's only about 22 lessons, about 30 minutes a day that you can teach them easily. Somebody like me who's not a teacher can pull it out, can teach it well. And so we liked it for that reason as well. It's sequential, each of the lessons build upon one another. And we go to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry. So some of the things that 2nd steps is great for, besides just being a universal classroom-based curriculum, it increases student school success, it decreases problem behaviors, research shows that, it promotes social emotional competence and self-regulation. And then just the main skills that it covers, K through 5, skills for learning, listening, watching, basic things, keeping your body calm enough to learn, empathy, being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, emotion management, being able to calm down, being able to self-regulate, problem solving skills, basic ways, being able to know what your problem is and then how to solve it. And then I just have a couple little basic examples from some of the lessons. This one is from a kindergarten lesson. Apologizing can help. What does it mean to apologize? When do you apologize? What does that look like? What does that sound like? This is from a 2nd grade lesson, and this is from the digital, we have digital and paper copies, ways to say a problem, because it's not always obvious how to state a problem in a way that you can actually solve it. And saying it respectfully, being able to use respectful words to solve problems, saying things without blame. And then these are just some examples of some posters that go with those core skills. This one goes with the skills for learning, empathy. Sorry if I'm going too fast. I think I'm going too fast because I'm nervous. How to calm down, those skills that we need to be able to calm down. And it goes, like I said, from a very simple version in kindergarten all the way to more complex in 5th grade. And actually this goes all the way through, second steps goes all the way through middle school, using the 3 different steps. The problem solving steps that we go through, saying the problem, saying it without blame, thinking of solutions, exploring consequences, brainstorming, and then picking the best solution. So those are the basics from the second steps curriculum that we chose. We've been using it for a few years as counselors, and then teachers have been using it recently, and we've loved it. It's simple. It teaches the very most basic critical skills for kids to be able to then regulate, to make friends, to access the curriculum. So any questions?
I got to tour Mount Stewart one day when we went in a class and they were actually using it, and the kids were, we stayed in there for just, I think, 5 minutes or so, watching them interact with the teacher and stuff like that. My question, I guess, for you is this adoption process for this, is it just trying to uniform it so it's throughout all the elementary schools that's going to be the same for everyone? Is that
right? Yeah, and also so that we would have a foundation or like a tier 1 curriculum that would be for all students. Then we can build upon that and decide what we need if there are behavior problems or emotional regulation problems, so that we can have interventions that fit if we know all the kiddos have the same skills taught. Yeah.
And the kids were interacting very well with the teacher too. It was entertaining to listen to their answers, and some of them weren't the best, but they worked through it. So I thought it was a pretty good curriculum. I don't quite remember the subject that it was, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very engaging, I feel like, for most of the kiddos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also, so again, you guys were able to see the public comment from the community input session. I would like to just address the one there for second step. Some of them, there was one comment that wasn't specific to any curricula, but for second step, the concern that we are going to, it was called an enhancement, that we're going to spend too much time doing this and not enough time doing academics, and it would be to the detriment of academics. And I was thinking about this when Levi was presenting and saying, research actually shows that more PE time improves academic scores. And I think this is very similar. Research would show that Rachel alluded to, that this isn't an enhancement, that attending to students' social emotional well-being is actually foundational to them being able to access, as she pointed out, and be successful with their academics. So spending time there actually helps us improve those areas. And K-8 cell costs. So for a 5-year digital license for second step, it's $34,000. That's a very exact number because the quote just came in. So that one's actually not approximate.
And Jen, just to go back on the comment that you were just talking about, somebody made a comment about possibly taking away from academics and things like that. They're only doing that for what, 10, 15 minutes, like once a day?
I would say it's maybe even a couple times a week.
Okay.
That time is that, yeah. So yeah, it's not a ton of time. And these are, to the question that you asked, these are the types of things that teachers have been doing in classrooms forever. I mean, you don't have a kindergarten classroom without teaching them how to interact at recess. But as Rachel said, this helps bring some tier 1 consistency across buildings and some very consistent language and approaches to it. Yeah. Okay, so as we go into looking at what we're proposing for 4-5 maturation and 6-12 health, wanted to make some notes about the law around comprehensive sex ed. So a couple of quick things. I think it's important to continually point out that this law clearly differentiates between K3 and 412. And so K3 is not sex ed. It has to be aligned to the Washington State Social Emotional Learning Standards. So when we hopefully adopt the second step, that social emotional learning curriculum that has nothing to do with sex ed will fulfill this part of the law. It falls under this umbrella of comprehensive sex ed law, but the K3 portion of it really has nothing to do with it. Other than when you start thinking about how to self-manage and build healthy friendships and things like that, those are all precursors to that content. But in every other way, there's nothing to do with sex ed and K3. It does not mandate a certain curriculum be taught, which I know there's some misconceptions out there that OSPI, when the law came out, OSPI was going to say you have to use this curriculum. That is not the case. Districts still get to choose, boards still get to approve which curriculum we are adopting. It does have certain requirements about what type of information should be included in 4th through 12th, which I'll go over. It, of course, allows for parents to opt their child out, as does our board policy. So our board policy that was in place since I think 2004-ish also stated that parents have the right to opt their child out of this portion of instruction. And this law didn't actually significantly change things for us here in Ellensburg. What was new, because we'd already been teaching comprehensive sex ed, what was new was that we must include bystander and affirmative consent instruction, and we must include that. We must have something in place for K3 SEL. So the law, this is what the law states, that it must be medically and scientifically accurate, age appropriate, and inclusive of all students. And abstinence may not be taught to the exclusion of other materials and instruction on contraceptives and disease prevention. Again, that's fairly reflective and pretty much verbatim what our board policy was in place before it. But the thing that was the most challenging for us to work through as a district when we were, okay, it's time to look at these materials. We know we need more materials. Let's look at what we have been doing, what's been working. I think we spent the most amount of time looking at that vague term in the law that says age appropriate and who determines what is age appropriate. So OSPI, and this is OSPI's response to their interpretation of that. And so I think it's important to point out that they say, while the learning standards provide guidelines for what instruction might look like in each grade, the decision on when and how to introduce instruction to students rests with each school district, which is good. But it also meant we had to have really lengthy conversations around with multiple stakeholders. We had building administrators, district administrators, counselors, teachers in the room talking about what do we want those outcomes to look like for our students. And that also was included in the board docs. It's also what I showed you guys earlier when I was here before, giving you the preview. But what we did is, if you were to Google or just get on OSPI's site, the health standards for OSPI, and you were to open up that document, the majority of what you're going to see are those outcomes that are listed by grade level. The OSPI says are recommendations only. So the standards and the topics have to be covered, but what that looks like for age appropriateness is determined by districts. So we spent quite a bit of time articulating so that when we went to say, what materials do we want to adopt, we really looked at what does that look like? What does covering that standard and that topic look like at 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, up through high school? And that is the result of that is the document that you guys have that provides both the outcomes, which are different from the ones that you will see if you look at the OSPI one. And it also provides specific examples of what that looks and sounds like in the classroom. So we did all of that work so that we could make a good solid decision about our health materials to make sure that they aligned and also ensure that they meet all the guidelines and state requirements. So these are the specific, whoops, sorry, ran right past it. These are the specific topics that the law says must be covered up through high school. And again, under that umbrella of age appropriate. So they're all fairly big and broad. And that's why it was hard work articulating what's the outcome look like for fourth graders, et cetera. And just reiterating again, parents right around sexual health education to opt out. Teachers and buildings have always been very good about notifying parents before they enter into this portion of the health units, send notification home, and parents have always had the right to opt their child out. And I think it's also important to note what that means at different levels. So at 4th and 5th grade, it's 1 or 2 days, and not even full days, like a portion of the day that they use to talk about it, and maybe a portion of the next day. But their maturation unit doesn't last beyond that. So that's what the parents are opting out of. At middle school, Levi's here, so he's going to talk a little bit more about that. But this coming year, it'll be 1 day a week is dedicated to health. And that was sort of that trying to manage, again, how are we going to fit those health standards into a student's day? But 1 day a week for health, but the sex ed portion of it is probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong when you get up here, but about 5-ish days, 4 or 5 days. Yeah. So that's what parents are opting out of there. And then at the high school, it's much more extensive. There is a health course. The health course is a graduation requirement. And so it's a semester long. And normally the sex ed part of that, or topics that cover that, occur over the course of 3 to 5 weeks. And so parents who opt their children out of that, we've come up with, and actually Levi Teasley helped pull it together when he was teaching at the high school, but go through additional health content still in the building, and they step out. And I think Bo said that we typically have around 20 or so kids who opt out annually from that. This is just the difference between the OSPI outcomes as example outcomes and what we developed in our district. And so then it gets down to what materials are we using to meet those outcomes that we've identified. And I will say that, so 4-5 maturation and HIV/AIDS prevention education. And hopefully you guys got the opportunity to watch those videos that were included in the links. But it was very challenging, I will say, very challenging to find maturation materials that matched what we had identified as what we wanted for outcomes for students. And so I also wanted to address public comment on the maturation materials, our community input there. And one of the concerns was, as you will see here, it is free. The materials are free. That is not because we didn't want to put money into it and we were trying to save costs. We looked hard. We did an RFP just like we did for everything else. We looked at multiple curricula, and everything we found didn't fit the outcomes we had identified for our 4th and 5th graders. So I also didn't mention that all of these materials went in front of the Instructional Materials Committee as part of board policy. That was an important meeting. We had unanimous support for each one of these curricula for adoption. But the one place where there's some editorial comments for that, even though they unanimously supported it, was with the 4-5 maturation and with that community input. And particularly because these are free materials, if we would continue to keep our eyes out for materials that might be a bit more inclusive. And so I think definitely we want to support keeping our eyes out. And if we did find something, it would have to come in front of the board again for approval if that's what we were to use. But really what the 4th and 5th grade material focuses on is purely puberty. It's really about, these are biological things that kids will experience, and everyone, it's very normal. And so it focuses on that part of it. But what we don't certainly want to do is inadvertently create environments that are not inclusive. And again, it's such a small portion of the kids' day, but really what we're looking for is that focus on getting kids comfortable with what might be happening to their bodies. And so that's what we found, and we'll keep our eyes open for other materials. Any questions about the 4-5 maturation? Okay,
No,
so
thanks.
okay, sorry. That brings us to the 6-12 health. And for both middle school and health, they are 2 different textbooks, but we are proposing essential health skills. And we have Levi here. Talk about that.
Hi, board. My name is Levi Botten, and I'm a health and fitness teacher at Morgan Middle School. I think one of the best ways to look at how the new health curriculum is going to improve our health instruction at Morgan is to compare it. Oh, it's all right. It's to compare it to what we're doing now. Right now, we're providing about 3 to 4 weeks of health per year per grade level. And one of the reasons for that is that the health curriculum we have right now is not covering a lot of the state standards that we're required to teach. And so a lot of what we're doing right now is teacher created curriculum. And that's been very challenging and time consuming to create. And then also to create it in a manner that meets all the needs of the different types of kids, and to provide it in modalities to meet the needs of all the different learners. Also, I think a lot of the topics in the curriculum that we are teaching right now is not applicable to some of the challenges that our middle schoolers are going through. And I think that's probably largely just because the curriculum was, I think, over 10 years ago. And I think the middle schoolers right now are a lot different than some of the middle schoolers we saw 10 years ago. So with the adoption of a new health curriculum, we're pretty excited about giving 9 to 10 weeks of health instruction. So that's about a quarter's worth of health. With this new curriculum, we'll have instruction on all the state standards presented by OSPI. And I think one thing people get confused about with health instruction is they think of it as just that sex ed portion. And like I said before, that's just about 4 days of instruction. And if someone would like to opt out, it would just be those 4 days. And then the rest of it is covered right here. So on this, it covers all the different units and topics that we'll be discussing throughout 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And so you can see through those 9 weeks, we touch on a wide variety of different topics that are really crucial to discuss at the middle school level. And so as far as the curriculum goes, some of the things that we liked the most about it was that it encompassed all of the state standards. A couple of the other curriculums I think the team looked at did not cover all the state standards. And so we'd have to be supplementing it from other sources as well. Whereas this one, every unit and topic that we need to instruct on is found within that curriculum. And then it aligns really well with Schoology and Google Classroom. The curriculum we have right now has no online portion or technology portion. And so to provide that additional resources for kids outside of school is really important. So anything that we're working on pen and paper in class can also be uploaded real easily to Schoology and Google Classroom to further their education if they're at home or on the weekend. And then another thing that as I was kind of rolling this out with a couple of my classes that I thought was very beneficial was all of the additional resources it provided. It had really well outlined lessons, and within that lessons, it had a lot of different opportunities and different ideas for instruction for your specific class. So you could take the knowledge you have of your students and decide on topics that you think would be the most beneficial for your classroom. As well, it provided a lot of modifications. There was ample opportunities for modifications for kids that may struggle with reading and writing, and it provided ideas and outlines and graphic organizers for kids that may struggle with reading and writing. And so we thought that was really cool as well. But ultimately, we're really excited at the middle school level to provide a quarter's worth of health. And so that will be about 1 day a week. And so, yeah, we're excited. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I remember taking health in junior high, and it was every day, 5 days a week for an entire semester. So 1 day a week, it doesn't even seem like it's enough, but you think 9 weeks, this updating the new curriculum, 9 weeks is adequate for that?
Yeah, I do. And that's, I think historically Morgan Middle School has been a predominantly fitness focused program. And that's great for getting kids moving and getting kids the activity they need. But at the downside is that they aren't getting as much health instruction. As you can see, we're doing about 3 to 4 weeks per grade level. And this 9 to 10 weeks, I think, is a perfect amount of time. And here, with that 9 weeks, we're able to cover all the state standards through their 3 years at Morgan Middle School. Any other questions?
Looks like no. Thank you.
Thanks.
Another thing to note about the essential health curriculum is that there is a supplement that wouldn't be part of core instruction, but this curriculum does actually provide, and it's back there if you want to look at it, a supplement that covers the human sexuality portion a little bit more contextualized and more in depth. And so that we will be purchasing that supplement, not as part of our core instruction, but as an opt into receiving it. So just like when the letter goes home, it's telling parents, we're going to start our sex ed unit. And if you would like to opt your child out, let us know. A part of that will be, and we also have these materials that if you would like to come pick them up and have them accessible to your family, then you can do that. So it would be an opt into for parents. And if we did ever include it as part of our core instruction, it would have to be adopted by you guys as part of core instruction. But the nice thing about that is it does provide us some flexibility with our adopted curriculum. And the cost for this, and it's kind of unfortunate that this came last and there's a bit of sticker shock after looking at the other prices. This one is actually very typical of an adoption when you're looking at how much does it cost to get new materials in place for students. And if you, for those of you that were here, if you remember past adoptions, that's about equivalent to what is spent in other major content areas like math and reading. And so this is a fairly typical adoption cost for a district of our size. And it just seems big when we've looked at the other numbers before this, especially the free one. And then I also wanted to comment on your comments about the including all of the health standards. And I do think that we've come up with a very intentional way that hasn't been there in the past to cover them at middle school, but it wasn't one of the written comments, but verbally at the community input session, that was something that was shared in terms of the K-5 piece, saying, can you really meet all the health standards in a PE class at elementary when you see them once or twice a week. The concern being they're not going to be moving as much. They're going to be sitting and getting health content. And so I think one of the things that the health and fitness teachers at K-5 are excited about is they're going to be sitting down next year and working on, as Levi alluded to, those essential standards and outcomes and identifying. We already did an initial look at, let's look at all the health standards and identify where are these covered, because some of them are covered by second step and some of them are covered when we do our maturation unit and some of them are covered in this new focus fitness that we are proposing, but really having a consistent and agreed upon approach to who covers what, when, where. So I think that's going to be definitely part of the implementation next year. And that's it finally. So that's the end. Kelly, stop your big sign.
Thank you, Jen, for all of that information. Thank you all the teachers that were involved with that. That is really amazing to see the work that's being done with that. So again, thank you for all of that. So yes.
Any final questions?
Yeah, any final questions for Jen?
I had one more question.
Yeah.
Back to the K-5 music.
Yes.
The initial cost, everything else after was like kind of middle school, high school, things like that. The K-5, you had about 5,000 something. Is that per school or is that for
No,
the whole?
that's total. And actually the reason that's so low is because 2 of the schools had already been using this and they didn't have any concerns about the curriculum. They loved it. They wanted to get it in place, but we didn't have a consistent curriculum across the board. So while they have some replacement costs, the 2 of the schools don't have heavy costs. And then they helped order materials for IDA through the bond. And so a lot of those were ordered already through that. So it's really getting materials in place for one school and then some replacement costs at some of the others.
Yeah, I had a quick question. On the health thing, the chart that says by the grades and what's being taught in the chapters. So grade 7 is alcohol, grade 8 is drugs. You know, is that a state standard that we do that at 7th and 8th? Because I think I've seen it before together, like alcohol and drugs units, because they're chapter 10 and 11, but they're split by a year.
Yes. So those, and that's one of the challenging things about middle school. And Levi, is he still here? He left. If he wanted to pipe in, he could, but I guess he's gone. So one of the challenging things about middle school is since we are embedding this in the PE classes, there is a 6th grade PE class, and then there's a 7th and 8th grade that's combined with both 7th and 8th graders. And we don't want to repeat content. And that textbook that you see covers 6, 8. So it's not like we're going to cover the same chapters every year. So what the plan that they've laid out to cover all of the standards over the course of the 6, 8 experience is that they'll cover some of it in 6th grade, they'll cover some of it in 7th grade and some of it in 8th grade. So some content, some kids might get as an 8th grader that others get as a 7th grader, but they'll loop the content and it's appropriate for both grade levels, but they loop that content to make sure that they're not doubling up. The sex ed, we have to teach sex ed twice in 6, 8. So that portion will actually double up in 7th and 8th grade. They'll get it twice, but the rest of it has been sort of spread out.
Any other questions?
Well, I had a question. For Jen, I was wondering if with the adoption of these programs, are all 4 elementary schools going to be in a line as far as if a child has to transfer from one to the other? Are they going to be seeing the same programs?
Yes. It will be aligned if we adopt these curricula, particularly in PE and, well, all of them, it'll be aligned, but we currently have the second step in every elementary as pilot materials. And so if we were to continue to use it, we have to formally adopt it, but that's already consistent or been worked towards consistency. But PE and music, if there's no adoption, there won't be alignment.
Madeline, any other questions or board?
No, thank you.
I do have one more, and I asked this question the last time that you presented the health portion of this, and I just want to reiterate it again. Most of this is not new. It's just aligning and adopting this curriculum, but pretty much, as you have stated, the last 10 years that you've been comprehensive sex ed or health and sex ed and all that, this isn't really changing a lot.
Yes, when we went to go develop our outcomes, they ended up aligning with our current practice and our current outcomes pretty consistently. The materials for sex ed, so the content's not very new, but again, that's just sex ed. So the maturation and the sex ed pieces of that health book. But I would say the rest of the health, we are much overdue for an adoption, and our materials are non-existent, or I keep pointing back to Levi and he's gone now, or just really out of date. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jen, for all of that and for answering all those questions. We really appreciate that. Okay. Yes, we should definitely. Thank you. All right, board. So this is an action item. And so board, I would entertain that if there is any discussion or if there's anything that we need to discuss as a group, that we do that now. And then it is an action item. So this can be an action item to adopt all of the new curriculum, or that we could go one by one. It just depends on what motions are moved forward. So.
I don't have any further discussion. I think Jen did a great job of answering, and all the teachers that got up answered all the questions for me. So.
Yeah, and I will reiterate too, what I especially like about the health curriculum is I love the opt-in and the opt-out components of that. I think that honors all of our community, which I think is very important. So that way people can make that choice. So I'm very supportive of all of these curriculums. Plus the teachers did a lot of hard work to get us to this point, and I really want to support them.
I move that we accept the proposed curriculum for K-5 music, K-2 phonics, K-5 health and fitness, K-8 social emotional learning, and 4-12 health.
I second the motion.
All right, thank you. So Jonathan has moved. I'm going to use the word adopt. Is that okay? Yep, that we're going to adopt, and I'm going to say all the new curriculum that you stated, all that's listed in our agenda. And Mike has seconded. Is there any further discussion before I call the vote? I will do a roll call vote. All right. I will start with Jonathan.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Madeline.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Excellent. We have adopted the new curriculum. Congratulations, teachers. Thank you so much. And Jen, for all of your hard work on that. Excellent. All right. Next up, we have the OAC update and bond projects. We are going into almost 2 hours. I am going to make a short announcement and plea to the board that we recess for 5 minutes after this session, so at least some of us can go use the restroom. So,
I'll try to keep it short.
So with that, go ahead.
Good evening. For those of you who I have not met, my name is Damon Gardella. I've been the construction manager on the 2018 bond program for Ellensburg School District. So started on this project, I'll call it the entire project, back in November 2018. So yeah, Ginger asked me to come tonight just to give an update on where we are with the bond program. I think Leslie's pulling up the slide here. I'll just take this opportunity. This is actually not in my presentation, but something I thought of when I was sitting there is when the bond program was first run and first rolled out to be voted on, it was a very linear type of schedule in the bond program, and Mount Stewart was actually presented as a renovation instead of a replacement. So for those of you that weren't around back then, I'll give a quick update on that. We actually did a bunch of studies way back when that it was actually more cost effective to replace Mount Stewart than to do renovation. What that allowed us to do was to build the 2 new schools at the same time, rather than renovate, then build, then renovate. And so what that also has done is we are 1 year ahead of schedule right now to when the original bond program was run. So we'll finish basically the entire bond program renovation of Lincoln a year sooner than it was originally presented way back in 2018. So a little history there. So, okay, next slide. This is just something that was really cool. I put this together. So the rendering on the left, that was actually created by Integris Architecture in the summer of 2019. Just by happenstance, I took that picture on the right today. And I was putting my slides together and I realized the correlation there and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So next slide, please. Okay, Mount Stewart Elementary, not a lot going on. All the heavy lifting is essentially done. We are in the warranty and the closeout phase of the school. So we are completing as-built documents and drawings on that, the O&M manuals of everything is put together. So now that the construction's done, we go back, we do put everything together that was done on the school. So the district has that basically forever. We have been talking to our general contractor, Garco Construction. They, to their knowledge, have fulfilled all the requirements of the Authority 7 jurisdictions to sign off on the various components of the school to get the permanent certificate of occupancy. We received a temporary in the fall. Obviously, we had work to do through the winter and into the spring with landscaping, things like that, that we weren't able to do because of weather. So we hope to have that soon. We're just waiting to hear back from the city and the different authorities having jurisdiction to see if there's any remaining items, and hope to see that very soon. So, and then, yeah, like I said, the warranty period, we are addressing any warranty items that come up and everything like that. So next slide, please. Ida, Nason, Aronica, and next slide. I didn't have a cool picture to match that one. So, so not surprising, exact same. Schools are built at the same time. So we're going through the same process right now. Most of the heavy lifting's done. Punch list items there are a couple out there remaining, but most of those are done as well. Next slide. Okay, so I put this together. What is with the weeds? So Ginger asked me to explain because I've been getting this question a lot. And I'll do a quick explanation of why it looks the way it looks out there. So the contract called for hydroseed. So the landscapers put the hydroseed down. Unfortunately, weeds grow a lot faster than the grass from the hydroseed. So the process is we need the hydroseed and the grass to establish before we can really do much. We just got the okay this week that we can actually start mowing. So they're going to run the mowers on it this week. They'll run the mowers on it next week. And at that point, the landscaper said it'll be mature enough and rooted enough that they can apply a broadleaf application to the weeds. So once they do that, the weeds will start dying away and the grass will continue to be able to mature and grow. So I know it's an eyesore right now, but that's the kind of the outcome of going with hydroseed versus just rolling out sod and having like instant grass. When school comes back in the fall, it'll look just like that picture on the right, which is today. It was at Mount Stewart. I took that picture as well. Mount Stewart had the exact same application, went through the exact same process as we're going through here, and it does work. It will have grass. So I thought I would take a second to explain that because yes, it is not appealing to drive up to a brand new school and see weeds there. We did have the benefit on Mount Stewart being that we finished in September, that weeds don't seem to grow as fast in September. Even though they did grow, they didn't grow as fast as they're doing it in the spring with all the rain and the warm weather and sunshine. So, Lincoln, I'll back up. I do have one more item I want to talk about. Ginger asked me to talk about before we move on to Lincoln, and that is the She called them ponds out here. And just a quick explanation of what is going on and why they're there. So the two bodies of water, I'll call them, on the east side of Cora are actually swales. Those swales catch all the runoff from your sidewalks, your parking lots, and things like that. There's various ways to capture that water, but you do have to capture it. You can't let it run down the street and run into sewer systems and things like that. So you have to address it on site. They have seeded around those areas. It will vegetate. It will not have standing water in it year round. When snow melts and you have big rain events or a lot of rain events, and it captures it quicker than it can absorb into the ground. Yes, there will be some water in there. It'll be less visible once all the vegetation takes and grows. It will be like a typical swale you would see like around other big parking lot structures around the city. So the body of water on the west side of Cora is, I guess, technically more of a pond. That was a requirement at Department of Ecology because we put Cora in and it had to disturb a small section of wetland. We had to offset and mitigate and create more wetland to offset the wetland was there. So that was their requirement. So that's going to be more natural. Nobody really knows what the water situation will be in that until time goes on. And all the plantings have been planted in the wetlands, and those will continue to mature as well. So I just wanted to address that as well, so you guys knew kind of what was going on. It's really obvious right now because the vegetation hasn't established, but they have hydroseeded and it will become less obvious. Okay, Lincoln Elementary. So on to some cool slides because this one's actually under construction still. So next slide, please. Just a quick update on what's going on there right now. The picture on the left, that's the elevator addition. The elevator is installed and they are closing in around that. So that is an addition to the building, which is mostly being renovated. The picture on the right is what you see. There's a library, and why I thought that was really cool is we just got the windows in and got them installed. That's been plywood for a lot of months, and just the windows and how that's going to light up in the library will be great. So next slide. The new gym. This is the other addition to the building. It's a gym and there's a music room / stage on there as well. So the picture on the left is exterior, which is just about wrapped up with finishes, and the interior is just about done. Also, the only thing left on the interior really is some wall padding and the flooring. All the painting's been done. Scoreboard, basketballs, everything like that is installed. I did mention to Ginger today on our walkthrough just how impressive the 3 gyms are on the 3 new schools. The size of them for elementary schools. You guys like your gym space because it's nice to go in and not have a small little gymnasium for the kids and be able to have these large spaces. So beautiful gyms in all 3 schools. They really are compared to a lot of the elementary schools we do. Next slide, please. A couple snapshots of classrooms. This is classrooms on the left is a kindergarten. The one on the right is a typical classroom. Kindergarten obviously has dedicated restroom within the classroom, but the casework being installed, ceilings are being installed. That flooring on the right is actually I don't know if it's original. The flooring was there. I'm assuming it's original with the school. So we refinished the portion in front of the casework. The rest of the classroom would be carpet. Next slide, please. Okay, so next for Lincoln, this is kind of what we're working on other than finishing the school. Things we're planning for is getting the logistics together and the pricing for the moving. It's going to be complicated. There's no way around it when we open a new school or add a new school to the district, and now we have to fill all those classrooms, and it's not just as clean as they're moving point A to point B. So we got a lot of moving parts we're working through to get that plan in place and try to make it as seamless as possible. It's still a move. It's still not fun, but it needs to be done. We have locked in our delivery date for new furniture, which is on August 15th. That's when it'll start arriving in Lincoln. So we'll start installing furniture in the school at that time. A little update of what's been going on behind the scenes. Everybody's been hearing supply chain. Unfortunately, we are not exempt from having issues, and we're working through those issues on Lincoln almost daily. There is a big one that's affecting us though, and that is they delayed electrical switchgear that was first started procurement last August. And they are now telling us that it probably won't be here in time for the school to open, or excuse me, it may be here before school opens, but it won't be here in time to open the school with that switchgear. So we have a plan in place, and we are actually going to rent switchgear, electrical switchgear, so the school opens on time. That'll eventually have to be swapped out with the permanent, but it will allow the school to open on time. You won't have any delays, and we can have a success. But it's been a struggle. Windows taking 6 months to get. There's a window right outside here that it arrived broken, and we're still waiting for the replacement. I mean, it was nothing that anybody did, but just the materials have been a challenge. Construction is getting very interesting. So that's my update. I've promised I'd keep it short, but I'd love to answer any questions.
So when you say it's delayed, do you have a sense of how far behind we might be on this project, or?
With the switchgear, you mean?
Well, total. So
Well,
like
the project's not delayed. We're on time with the project.
So we are on time regardless, even with all those.
Yes.
As long as we don't have any more surprises.
Yes.
Okay.
I will make, yes, that is a great question. Like I said, we don't get the notification until we get the notification that something's either been delayed, but right now, nothing is causing the school not to open on time, which is great. That switchgear, that's a big deal. I'm not gonna lie, that could have been a big deal. We had a great team with our general contractor, our electrician on the project, our mechanical or electrical engineer. Everybody worked together to come up with a plan, because we went into the plan that not opening the school on time, that was not an option, or not opening the school. Yeah. So everybody had that mentality, and we came up with a plan, and fingers crossed we don't fall subject to anything else. But good news is you saw the pictures of where we were at with progress. So every day that goes by is better, right? I mean, that we don't get a notification that something's been delayed.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate the update. I think the board, this is exactly what we needed. The only other question I had is, I always called them retention ponds, but you said swells.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question for that.
Retention ponds, same thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's the same thing. So I was surprised. I had a couple of community members ask me about it. And so I drove out and took a look, and I was surprised just how close they are to the school. And so I'm assuming that we have checked policies, we've checked procedures as far as having, because if that's going to hold water, as long as it's right next to an elementary school. Like, to me, it was a surprise I wasn't expecting to see. So is there going to be a fence put around it?
So there's no plan to put a fence around it. I'll go back to your first question. Typically, they're right adjacent to parking lots. Sometimes they're long, elongated, and they're all different shapes and sizes. But they are typically very close to the parking lot, so you don't have to put additional infrastructure to get out. At this time, there's no plan to put a fence in. Like I said, it's not deep. I know there's standing water in it, but Department of Health, they're not even requiring us to address it with a fence like the irrigation ditch and having that big fence out there. A fence can definitely be put in if the district wants to put in a fence. So if that's something we want to try to get in there, we work with Ginger and Angie and see what we can do there. But at this time, no requirement, no plan to put a fence around.
And last clarification, because I haven't looked, I didn't think about it, but as far as because the playgrounds literally are right here.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a fence, or is there going to be a fence that will separate the playground from that part of the parking lot and that area? So that way, at least while students are during school times, the students are not allowed or could not go over to those areas.
Yes, and it's actually fenced off right now.
That's what I thought. I just hadn't actually walked it to see that it's full.
There's a 6-foot fence around the perimeter, and then separating the trash enclosure kitchen delivery area off the parking lot is a 4-foot tall fence along that stretch. So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
So there is a
Thank you.
delineation. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Board, any other questions? Just checking with Madeline. I don't see her or unmuting, so I think we are.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you.
All right, thank you for the
Yes,
opportunity.
absolutely. Thanks for the update. All right, so I'm going to ask the board that we take a 5-minute recess. So we'll come back about 8:12-ish, so we can just take a quick restroom break. As those that are here, we are going to do public comment. It is going to be limited to probably 30 minutes tonight, just because this meeting is going really long. There's a lot of information. So I just want those of you to know, if you're not able to stay with us, please understand we will and gladly take public comment through email, if that's what you're wanting to do as well. So anyway, okay, we're going to recess 5 minutes. Okay. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, we just said
No, I just, hey, but it kind of worked. That's what
Oh, that's so cool though. All right, it is now 8:12. So if I could just ask the board to return to their seats, and we will resume in our business meeting. Okay. All right. We were able to take a quick break. Thank you for those who are able to stay with us. Next up, we are still in business. So we are going to move to the WIAA resolution.
So this resolution is just encouraging us to continue to stay associated with. There's a cost with that with WIAA. That is the sports, the athletic association that we usually join every year that supports all of the competitions that we have with our athletic program. So I'm recommending that we adopt this resolution.
Thank you, Ginger. Board, any questions?
This is just already in place and renewing it. I move that we approve to stay in the WIA. I guess.
Yeah. So clarification, you are.
I make a motion that we stay in the WIA.
So I'll just clarify. Maybe make a motion that we approve the WIA resolution. Does that work?
That works.
Okay. That work?
I second that.
All right, perfect. We will get through it. That's awesome. All right, so for the record, Mike made a motion to approve the WIA resolution and Jonathan has seconded. Board, any discussion? Seeing that there is none, then I will call the vote. Again, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Jonathan?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Madeline? We may have lost her because I saw her bleep off. I will skip and then I will be the third vote to say aye. Resolution is approved. And again, just for clarification, I'm going to look to Leslie. We have 3 board members, so we still have quorum, so we can still pass and move forward. So, all right. Next up, we have the finance report.
Hello, board. Tonight I will be going over the financial status of the district as of April 2022. You should have a packet in front of you that has a summary report, history of fund balance chart, budget status report, and a trial balance report for all funds. You will see that the general budget is on track. As of April 30th, the revenue came in at 65.4% of the budget and expenditures came in at 59.1% without taking in consideration the encumbrances. These percentages are below the expected budget amount of 67%, which relates to 8 months of expenditures out of the total 12 months for the year. The unassigned fund balance equates to approximately 14.3% after considering fund balance restrictions and assignment, which is the primary indicator of the district's financial status. The good news is you will see that our fund balance has increased, and part of that increase is due to receiving the second major property tax revenue collection in April for the year. As I analyze the financial information for April, it appears that we may not spend all the expenditures that were budgeted for 21-22 school year, which is pretty normal for a budget each year. However, we do have four more months of expenditures that will include summer maintenance projects, remaining salaries and benefits, additional professional services, and supplies that will be ordered in the next 4 months to finish up the school year. The capital project fund is below the expected 67% budgeted revenue expenditures as of April 30th. Revenue came in at 42.82% and expenditures come in around 54.96% after considering encumbrances. The fund balance is at $3.7 million that consist of state match, tech levy, and assign funds to support other capital projects. The debt service fund revenues are above the expected 67% budget of revenue, coming in at 89.58%, with the expenditures being above the expected 67% at 80.56%. The majority of our expenditures were in December 2021 to pay the principal and interest of our outstanding debt. In June, we will be making another interest payment. The ASB fund is below the expected 67% budget revenue expenditures as of April 2022. Revenue came in at 3154.54% and expenditures came in around 32.14%. Remember that the ASB board has made the decision budget for capacity for all possible fundraisers. Since the private purpose trust fund is a fiduciary fund, it is not a budgeted fund, therefore it's not a budgeted status. You do not have a budgeted status report for that fund. You will see that the fund balance is at approximately $53,000 at the end of April 2022 to fund private purposes, specifically to support scholarships. The transportation vehicle fund is also below the expected 67% budget revenues expenditures as of April 2022. Revenues came in at 2.31% and expenditures came in at 0 once again. The reason those percentages are so low is that we have not surplus or purchased any buses as of April 2022. As of the date of this report, we don't plan to purchase buses in this current year. However, we'll be planning for the 22-23 budget to determine if we need to purchase buses in the next school year. I would like to remind everyone that this report is presented with the information that I have currently and is subject to change as we continue through the year. I would also like to remind everyone that revenue sources are used in their current funds for authorized expenditures and can't usually be transferred to be used in different funds unless authorized with the adopted budget and within the accounting laws. Are there any questions on the financial report?
Thank you,
I did have a
Kim.
question.
Madeline?
Sorry. Thank you. And I did ask, I sent an email earlier, but I just wanted to kind of check in about if somebody's looking at the reports on the county treasurer page, the general ledger detail reports versus the balance sheet numbers for the same month, any discrepancies in those numbers? Can you kind of go over what that would be?
We do balance to those reports each month, and sometimes there are discrepancies. Sometimes it's on the account, the county treasurer side of it, where they put the funds that we've invested or sent to them into the wrong funds. And so we'll have to reconcile that. And sometimes that doesn't happen until the next month. So you might not see that fixed until the next month. We are also, there might be some journal entries that we need to still do, or we're researching where some revenue came from. There's just some small discrepancies sometimes, but we definitely try to balance each month. And we are in the process of balancing all those months and to fix a discrepancy if there is any.
Excellent. Madeline, any more questions?
No, thank you.
All right, perfect. And just for clarification, because I know Madeline and I were both involved recently, the state is just completed the audit. So, right, so you're getting audited by the state, and this is done at least once a year, pretty regularly, correct? So I don't think all the board members always understand how you are audited pretty frequently, and all of this is looked at pretty closely. I know the last time there were no findings. Are we going to have an update on that soon? Do you think, is that coming?
I can give you a little bit. The certified audit hasn't come out, but they are done and we've gone through the exit. It's a clean audit on both financial statements and on the federal audit. The only item they had was a small exit item to make sure that we are documenting in our meeting minutes, the duration of the executive sessions, but it was not a big deal. They said it wasn't a big deal. We just need to make sure we were doing that. Otherwise, everything was clean.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to the official update later. That's great. Thanks, Kim. All right, board, any other questions for Kim for that? All right, thanks, Kim. All right, so last on our business is we have the enrollment report.
Yeah, so when we go ahead and take a look, you have two documents there. You have a monthly enrollment for FTE and headcount, and then you also have the monthly enrollment comparison. In this time of the year, we're not seeing a lot of shifts and changes. So our transitional bilingual, our CTE, our alternative programs, I mean, things are pretty much holding pretty consistent. We have, very small shifts in enrollment. We've lost a few more secondary kids, but we gained more elementary kids. So we're this month we're up 3 students overall in the district. So we're at, 3152 is our current number, which is 152 above the 3,000 that we had originally budgeted for. So all is well. Any specific, there's really not a lot of shifts or changes. Okay. Thanks.
I don't see Madeline unmuting, so I think the board has no questions. So we'll keep moving forward. Okay, thank you, Kelly. All right, so next up we have policy, and we have one policy up for tonight. That is the parent access and safe and orderly learning environment.
Yes, so I'm recommending that we adopt this policy. If you open it and you look, they just added, it's one that similar to one that we've had, except they did insert the statement under visitors. Originally said the board welcomes and encourages visits to school by parents, guardians, community members, and interested educators. And then the part that they added is parents are assured access to their child's classroom, as well as school-sponsored activities for purposes of observing class procedure, teaching material, and class conduct. However, such observation must not disrupt the classroom or learning activity. And that was the only thing that was added. So I think this is a good policy to adopt.
Great. Thank you, Ginger, for presenting that and the clarification. Board, is there any questions for Ginger on this? All right. This is an action item, or being asked for us to consider as an action item. No problem.
I move that we adopt policy. Oh, there's no number. I move that we adopt this policy, the parent access and safe and orderly learning environment.
I second.
All right. All right. Thank you. So I hear you, Mike. You have moved that we adopt the policy before us, the parent access and safe and orderly learning environment. And Jonathan has seconded. Board, any discussion? Seeing that there is none, I will call the vote. Jonathan?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Madeline?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. So policy is adopted. Thank you, Ginger. All right, that moves us to student reports. Thank you. Our student rep has stayed with us the whole time. We appreciate your time, and I understand you have a report for us tonight.
I do. As the year comes to an end, we have a lot of things going on. So I'll try to get through a lot of things. There are many things happening, but I just wanted to highlight a few. As our spring sports come to an end, our track, softball, and baseball teams are heading off to state. Last week, we sent off our baseball team, and currently they are in the Final Four, and we'll be playing, I believe, sometime in the next few days. And if they win, they will move on to the championship Friday. Track leaves tomorrow. They'll be at Tahoma High School for the next 3 days competing. So good luck to all of them. Also, I just wanted to highlight, it was previously mentioned, but FFA and FBLA just got back from state. And I know these students, I had talked to a few of them, were really excited to be able to go back and to compete. And, that's a big deal to be able to make it to those competitions, because there's a lot of, processes to getting there. And some of those students are able to go to nationals, which is an even bigger deal. So congrats to them. I wanted to say that we had a NHS induction, I believe 2 weeks ago. I just wanted to recognize those students and all the hard work that they had put in to be able to get accepted into that club. Also, a big thing that a lot of students were really happy to get back to doing was prom. That happened May 14th. And I just wanted to say kudos to the junior ASB class for putting that together. I went and I enjoyed myself, and I know a ton of my other classmates really enjoyed it. And it's nice to be back doing something that, you know, we didn't get to do last year, and we don't have masks. So that's something that, you know, really, you know, helps us have the full high school experience. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on a few things as we're getting to graduation. I'm a senior, so, you know, things are starting to come up, but there's all really exciting stuff. Like today, we had the Elite Scholars recognition, which I was able to attend. And shout out to Gerald's, they sponsored that, and that was a really cool event to go to. We have baccalaureate coming up, thanks to the senior parent group that I know a lot of students are really excited to attend. We also have the senior excursion, which is June 2nd, and scholarship night coming up June 7th, and then graduation on June 9th. So lots of things coming up, but it's super exciting to be able to finish off the year and, you know, see all these events happening.
Thank you, Chloe. Board, any questions for Chloe? Yes, I think we all would agree. Just so excited to see all of these things happening again. So again, thank you, and thank you for that report. Appreciate that. All right, next up we would have the teaching and learning report. Tasha's not here, so we have no report tonight. I do have a board chair report. So first, board, I think I need to acknowledge how wonderful it is, again, to have community members at our board meeting, that we really want our community to engage with our district. The more informed the community is, the better we all can be at understanding the district's planning, decision-making, and actions. Board, I have been drafting the edit for the board's website. We have the board operating principles already ready to go. We've done that. Now, I think what is most important to include for our community, especially on our website, is referencing WASDA's primary listed roles for a school board. So I'm hoping to have these ready for the board at our next study session. In draft form, we have 6 that WASDA specifically addresses. And so these are, there's only 6, so I'll be quick. 1 is setting the district's vision and mission. So we do that through our published board ends. 2 is monitoring the district's progress toward goals. 3 is governing the district through the review, revision, and adoption of policies. 4 is sound fiscal management of the district. 5 is serving as community representatives both to the district and on behalf of the district. And the last one, 6, is hiring, supervising, and evaluating the superintendent. So those are the 6. Any feedback on any of these at this time? All right, perfect. I look forward to the board's input, review, and future confirmation of publishing these roles on our website. So I will have that for you next time, hopefully. The last part of my report, I just want us to all recognize that sometimes district decisions bring many feelings and emotions from our community. We as a board must recognize our role and also need to take the facts more so than the feelings into consideration. We have heard a lot over the past couple months about, especially from a persistent group, organized, about libraries. The board has listened and considered all the information and comments provided to us about librarians. The district has already made the decision about librarians for next year. In addition, we as a board support that decision and will not be asking the superintendent to reconsider that decision. As board members, we need to continue to encourage the community to stay informed and to engage in the district's planning, decision-making, and actions. And that's my report. Any questions for me? All right, then we will move on to the next agenda item, which is public comment. So Leslie, if you can get us set up, we are going to limit public comment to 30 minutes. And we are going to prioritize the people who have stayed with us. Thank you. That has we really want to hear from you. So trying to get my notes here. Okay, individuals in person wishing to be heard by the board need to be signed up to speak, and those on Zoom need to add their names to the document in the Zoom chat box. If you are unable to do this, individuals may also be recognized within Zoom by using the icon or emoji to show you are raising your hand for public comment. Once the chair calls on an individual, they will identify themselves by stating their name and address for the record. Individuals who proceed to make comments within the 3-minute, individuals will proceed to make comments within the 3-minute time limit. In order to provide equal opportunity for comments, an individual's microphone will be turned off at the 3-minute time limit. The chair may interrupt or terminate an individual's statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. The board as a whole has the final decision in determining the appropriateness of such rulings. In accordance to the Open Publics Meeting Act 4230, agendas and topics must be set in advance of the meeting. Board members will not respond to public comment during the meeting. If an individual would like a response from the board, it is always best to submit that response in writing or through an email at board@esd401.org. Leslie, are we ready to open up public comment? All right. And again, I'm going to note the time. It is 8:33. So at 9:03, we will need to close public comment. Yeah, let's go ahead and once we begin. So I do want to, we will go ahead and keep the time limit at 3 minutes, and we'll just do our best to try to get people through. So, okay.
Address? Yes. Address again? Okay, I'm Catherine Bruner. I live at 203 South Maple. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about my concern about school start times for next school year. My son will go back to Lincoln in the fall, and I'm so glad he gets to finish his elementary school career there. But as a single mom with a fairly typical work schedule of 8 to 4:30, Lincoln's 9 to 3:30 is going to be really tough. Right at School sounds like a fine program, except now I'm looking at before and after school care, which increases my costs. What happens if we don't reach the 150 student minimum? With the new attendance zones, we can't have kids on the bus to other care facilities or to other family members' houses. These are serious concerns for working parents. 2 years ago, Lincoln started around 7:30, and it was great to be able to start my workday on time and not start my Zoom calls from the drop-off line at Lincoln. Why the switch from that schedule? The American Academy of Pediatrics released a policy recommending middle school and high school students' start times should be no earlier than 8:30. Research shows that they need at least 9 hours of sleep. It also shows sleep-deprived teens are more likely to be overweight, depressed, and do poorer in school. I know my son at 10 is up and ready to go, sometimes before I am, but it's a whole lot harder to get teenagers out of bed. These things are really tough for working parents. I'm not the only one. At least I can maybe work from home, but we have plenty of people that take care of patients and we start seeing patients in doctor's offices at 8 o'clock. So what about those parents that can't work from home or open their business later? There's lots of us that have really concerns about how we're going to take care of our children. And the right at school thing is a little scary. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Debbie Rowden, 921 Kittitas Highway. I am a retired high school English teacher, and this is my third time of speaking to you this spring. The first 2 times I came with facts and research. This time I'm speaking from my heart. My phone rang one Sunday in June of 2004, and it was Kathy Day. She was interested in a job at Ellensburg High School, and she wondered what the English department was like. We spent an hour talking on the phone, and then she was interviewed 2 weeks later. We had 2 openings that year, and she was an amazing candidate. She was a wonderful colleague for me. She was a resource for innumerable people. She is an amazing educator, a gem. You don't come across these very often. And I think we're probably losing her. And it's because of the decisions that feel so arbitrary. At the end of the last 2.5 years, which have been miserable for everyone, I would think the district would want to do things that would calm things down, to make things easy so that we could heal. And instead, things have been blown up. And not just the library situation, so many things in the district are not going well. And I fear that the administration is making things worse, not giving the teachers and the students time to get better after what's happened to them in the last 2.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Mary Gordon, 2720 Cove Road. Thank you to the board for your service. As a community, we understand what our schools should look like and how we expect schools to run. We pass levies, bonds, support fundraisers. We attend events and support kids in many ways to get them from point A, preschool, to point B, graduation. We don't get everything we want. Compromise is the name of the game, and teaching our kids to work together as adults try to do the same is the ultimate life skill we hope to accomplish. To be in the situation we're currently in makes no sense. In reassigning librarians, which I know is done, with no lead-up conversations with the staff involved, left many in the community feeling frustrated and confused. A community group gathered, organized, wanting to ask questions and get informed. Were you trying to get rid of Kathy Day because of her continuous work supporting teachers? Maybe. Obviously impossible to prove. When you blame the budget for your decisions, you're going to get a huge spotlight on your budget. Our multiple records requests asking for budget numbers to explain this unpopular shift in programming has produced zero data to support this change. It has become clear through these public records requests that our teacher numbers have decreased and our district office positions have increased. That is a fact. What is also clear is the turnover in the district office in the last 12 months. I've spoken to many of these former employees, and although their reasons for leaving may be unique, they all lead to the same problem. There's a lack of internal controls in your HR and finance departments and a hostile working environment. And I question how one person as head of HR and with control over the job description and all the applications to replace Brian Aiken suddenly gets the job herself after seeing the received job applications and I'm sure communicating with applicants. Illegal, maybe not. Unethical, certainly. And as a taxpayer, I question whether we ended up with the best candidate, which is what we want. Records requests will show if anyone else was even interviewed. I heard many HR stories such as this one and others regarding finance. Our community group has reached out to the state auditors and OSPI to find out how we as a community can fix these wrongs. We have an employment lawyer ready to go. Sadly, much of these issues were communicated with our board members. Nothing was done. I personally want a school board who oversees and questions everything the superintendent district office is doing while protecting the community and their hard-earned tax dollars, as you were elected to do. Instead, it seems we have a school board who protects the superintendent and district office at all costs while ignoring a questioning community. When the fallout happens, and it will, the school board will bear the responsibility. This is your ship to sail or sink. But as I said, we don't always get everything we want. But Ellensburg deserves better than this. Long after you're off the board and our superintendent has moved on to a new job, which she probably certainly will, we will be left cleaning up the mess of the business HR office and rebuilding our school district into a place we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Mary.
Marisol, 805 East Tacoma Avenue. I'm a parent of the twin fourth grade daughters. When we heard about this district, it's eliminating librarian position, I started searching information about school librarians. I was very surprised to find out that there is a trend started way before pandemic. The school districts tend to eliminate librarian position with district budget cut. So I guess Ellensburg district is just following this nationwide trend. But town Ellensburg is not like any other town. People in Ellensburg value librarians because library is one of the culture of this small town. When my daughters were toddlers, only place I can take them to this town were just city parks and the public libraries. There's no zoo or museum or no shopping mall with an indoor playground. So we went to the story time 2 days a week. Miss Josephine and Miss Sue were girls' first favorite big people in town. They learned not just the ABC, but science, math, and music from them during the story times and other events at the library. When my girls studied life at the Valley View Elementary School as a kindergartner, they were excited to tell me all about the great books in their libraries. When one of the daughters was sick on the library checkout day, Mrs. Schmidt remembered what kind of books my daughter liked, and she would choose the book to send them with her sister. This year, their new librarian, Mrs. Eiler, knows what genre of the chapter books our kids like, and she often personally recommends fun books for them. Thanks to these librarians, reading is both of my daughter's favorite things to do. When we told our girls that their future middle school and high school might not, I guess it's now, not have librarians, they look very confused and sad. One of the daughters said, I just can't imagine library without the librarian. And the other daughter said, librarians makes library a library. A lot of children like my daughters, library is a big part of their lives since they were very young. It is our responsibility to preserve this small town culture for them. Last 2 months, many longtime community members, including university librarians, city librarians, a local pediatrician, retired teachers spoke up about importance of having certified librarians in all schools. According to the National School Board Association site, the school board represents community voice in public education, providing citizen governance and knowledge of the community's resources and needs. Ellensburg school board members, your task is advocating our community's voice, not just supporting administration agenda. This librarian issue is one of the many problems our school districts facing right now. If you don't start solving these problems with the community input, I'm afraid that our district will lose more experienced and certified educators to the district where they are more valued. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Josh Welsh. I live at 903 East Spokane Avenue. I've got 3 kids in the district, one of which made it through this meeting. Thank you for the chance to speak. Thanks for your work on the board. Thanks to all the teachers that were here tonight, sharing their hard work on the curriculum and providing their input. You might look at those of us who come to these meetings and sit through the business agenda and then leave a 3-minute speech and see us as members of a community of an organized group of whining complainers. I hope that's not the case. I hope you'll look at me and see me as a parent of kids that are near the beginning of their school, of their career in our schools. I hope you'll look at me and see a taxpayer who's always supported the levies. I hope you'll see me as a community member who's concerned about our schools and about how they impact our town. I'm here to talk about values, not about feelings. I also hope that you won't look at the fewer people who speak out at some meetings as an indication that you've dealt with problems or addressed a concern. I've spoken at several meetings now. I haven't really felt as though my participation or feedback has been valued or taken into account. If people stop showing up at these meetings, it's not because we're satisfied with your work, it's because we've given up. I hope you'll keep this in mind and really hear me when I say that I think there's a disconnect between the district and the community right now. It's not to say that there aren't people doing good work. We've seen teachers, we've seen faculty folks, we've seen lots of folks, facilities folks, we've seen people doing really good work in the district. But decisions are being made in ways that consistently frustrate parents. Rezoning to that makes something like 2/3 of the students have to change schools. Again, getting rid of the middle school and the high school librarians, changing elementary libraries to STEAM centers without community input, questionable hiring processes in the high school athletics programs. I think I and many other parents have lost trust in the way that this district is being run. Other parents are leaving the district. They'll drive their kids to school in Thorpe or even as far as Yakima rather than endure the decisions that are being made here. Your teachers are leaving too. We all know great teachers who are choosing to retire or leave rather than put up with the environment that's been developed here. You've got a culture problem in this district. Culture is about having shared values, beliefs, and assumptions that can shape how people in a group or community will handle problems. In our district, these shared values have fallen apart. You can see this because people are here voicing their concerns over and over and over. You can see this because teachers feel afraid to speak up about their own concerns. You can see it because families are looking for other options for their children. The evidence seems to be overwhelming. There's a problem with culture in this district, and I really hope you'll recognize this and look for honest ways to address it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Brittany Nelson, and this is Lucille, 260 Scenic Lane. For those of you that don't know, I am a past district office employee. I was a fiscal specialist and I worked at the district for almost 4 years. I had my daughter in October and officially left the district after returning from maternity leave in March. I am here to just speak from my truth. The Ellensburg School District is going downhill fast, and it is due to the lack of leadership in this district office. These so-called leaders have forced many individuals out of their jobs. Many of us are young mothers who were discriminated against while pregnant, dealt with pregnancy complications due to work stress, and had our FMLA rights violated while on maternity leave. And we were, not just me, but other mothers were discriminated against while returning to the office. I quit my position a month before my daughter was scheduled to have surgery. Why would a young mother quit her job with great benefits to have no coverage while she has to have surgery? It was because I knew that I would be criticized and reprimanded to take time off to care for my daughter. These leaders are only working for themselves, and their last priority are the children in this community. My supervisor at the time at the district was Paige Sorensen. Her and I both left in October 2021, and we had last reconciled the July 2020 financials. I was still working on closing the books and finishing up August when I was put on bed rest due to the stress of my job. That is the last month to have been reconciled and balanced. How can these leaders who are unethically obtaining jobs be responsible for the finances of our district, our taxpayer dollars, but they cannot balance the books? All of the funds have multiple accounts that are off by thousands of dollars, and no one is questioning this. The school board shouldn't be approving the financial reports every month, but they are. This is the perfect opportunity for a misuse of funds. If anyone has questions about this, please reach out. I would happily go over these reports with you and show you the discrepancies. Change needs to happen. Our taxpayer dollars should go to qualified individuals who are actually capable of doing the jobs and prioritize the children in this community. Change starts by questioning the lack of leadership, and that includes this board. The school board turned a blind eye when I brought ethical concerns to them and said it was not their responsibility to deal with unethical behavior from the district's top leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight. Allison Carpenter, 870 Game Farm Road. I understand that the board has moved on from this decision, but I have not. And I believe I still speak for many people in the community that, well, in the school district that don't feel safe speaking. I believe the librarian issue is the tip of the iceberg. But tonight I want to talk a few minutes about Kathy Day because I hear that she's leaving our district. The first time I applied for a job at the Ellensburg School District was about 20 years ago, and I didn't get the job. Kathy Day got it, some newcomer to town. And a staff member later said, oh, if you just watch Kathy Day teach, you'd see why you didn't get the job. Thanks. I did get to see her teach and work as a librarian, and she's just incredible. Once I watched her teach a philosophy class to high achieving honor students, and other times I'd see her coaching less than high achievers to reach their goals in writing, always with thoughtfulness and a very irreverent sense of humor. Also, like you would expect of a teacher librarian, she's a poet, a horseback rider, and a Harley rider. So I'm still confused as to why the district gutted her position. I'm not sure I've seen the financial evidence for it. So it leads me to think that maybe it's because Kathy was a very independent thinker, is a very independent thinker. She's not dead, she's just leaving Ellensburg. She's been a union president. She's a tireless advocate for educators, and she questions authority when there's reason to do so. So it is Ellensburg's loss, but Sela won the jackpot when they offered her a job for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Maureen Rest. Perfect. We are trying to unmute you. As soon as you're unmuted, you're welcome to begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Maureen Rust, 808 East Washington Avenue. Thank you for this opportunity. There are undoubtedly wonderful things happening in the district that we can all celebrate. I too would like to thank Lee Bates for his consistent advocacy for retaining our secondary school librarians, both in his letters to the newspaper editor and his Board of Education public comments. I too would like to speak to the elimination of secondary school librarians in our district. Last week, Kathy Day, our soon-to-be former EHS librarian, brought a group of 25 AP history students, 9th and 10th grade, to CW to introduce them to the resources at the Writing Center, History Department, and CW libraries. This visit, choreographed by Ms. Day, as she has done several years pre-COVID, is a great demonstration of the frequently referenced and aspired to Future Ready Libraries program. Let me correlate the visit to the features of the Future Ready Libraries objectives. Number one, use of space and time. Kathy provided pre-visit instruction on library layout and use of databases. Number two, curriculum instruction and assessment. She tied the instruction to a specific assignment. Number three, personalized professional learning. She modeled library and CW resources used to a history department colleague at EHS. Number four, robust infrastructure. She demonstrated by familiarity with AP history curriculum and CW resources. Number five, budget and resources. She took advantage of free resources at CWU. Number six, community partnerships. She partnered with the Writing Center, the History Department, and CW libraries. Number seven, data and privacy. She demonstrated the use of protected resources. Number eight, collaborative leadership. She collaborated with History Department faculty, Writing Lab staff, and the CW libraries. This is the certified teacher librarian we are losing on the pretense that her program needed overhauling to meet these very objectives. I want to express my disappointment and frustration that the school administration has seemingly refused to take into consideration the extreme public criticism of this major program dismantling. Please point me to one person who is not in administration who supports this change. Of course, our arguments are emotional, but they are also based on fact. My sense now is that the powers that be are simply waiting out the dissension without genuinely reassessing if this decision makes any sense for the district. I'd like to use my remaining, whatever the time is, for a moment of silence for the families, educators, and community members in Uvalde, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. All right, and it's 8:57, so I think we were able to do it. All right, just verifying. All right. Any clarifications? I'm gonna actually go first, Ginger. Ginger, I'm just gonna put this clarification to you. We've heard some very concerning information and some serious accusations concerning actions of the district. I anticipate the board will have follow-up questions. Board, we need to remind our community the most productive way to address concerns is in writing as in an email to the board. Also, board, accusations should be followed by facts, evidence, and data. Ginger, do you have any clarifications?
No, but on A, it's adjourned to close our executive session if needed, and I would like to adjourn to executive session for E and F in our policy.
Right. We need to leave a time. How long do you think we need?
Let's say 9:20.
Okay, so we will be back at 9:20, about 20 minutes from now. Leslie, can you make sure that Madeline is able to, has the Zoom link so we can make sure Madeline can join us? Okay, Ginger's on it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, we are adjourning to closed session.
No, executive.
Sorry, executive session until 9:20. Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, shoot, I had it. Oh, I had the Zoom all ready to go. There it is. Thank you. I'm so excited for everything you had to share.
I will see, I'll email you, but that date, the day before graduation, see if I can make it. Okay. I got it.
And we may have to come back in and extend it. We'll see. Leslie, we may need to come back and extend it, so stay ready in case we need to. Yes, absolutely. No, I absolutely want you there.
Who else is going to?
Good.
Part of the journey of life. But you came back.
Wait, so I should or shouldn't?
Yeah, this is from somebody who knows. There you go. Don't look. Hey, have a good evening.
You did an awesome job. Thank you. Uh-huh. It's a nice one too. All right. Okay.
All right. Are our Zoom people still zoomed in? Can they still, I mean, I just want to make sure they can hear us. We're not muted or anything. Okay, good. Just making sure we're good there. Okay, we are back. And I am just trying to find out where we were. Yep, so we did that. And so now, so any clarifications or next steps? Board calendar?
No.
One thing I would say under board calendar, I know like in your superintendent update, you had listed some those important dates. I haven't checked to actually see if those are Google Calendar invites. It would be really helpful, like having I'm sorry to
I
ask
think they
this.
all are, but I'll double check them.
I want to make sure that graduation,
It's on there.
I feel like all three of those things. I know you would ask other things like the senior breakfast and stuff like that. So it's just
Graduation's on them. I will double check. if they're
okay.
on there.
Because I want to make sure I can be it as.
The only one I didn't see was the awards.
Oh, okay.
Excellence awards or
make sure.
whatever.
Okay.
Oh,
So that was
Excellence in Ellensburg.
Yeah,
Gotta
that
make
was the
sure
only
that
one I
gets on
didn't
their
see a
calendar.
Google invite for, but the rest,
Yeah.
breakfast, graduation,
Yeah, I'll
and
do that.
Excel were all
right.
Yeah.
I think, but
Okay.
I can do that right now.
Okay, sounds good. So. And there's no proposed items for future consideration?
At this point. No.
Nothing from Madeline. Okay. So that leads us, well, we know do we have documents to sign?
Yes.
Thank you. That's just what I wanted to hear. Okay, so we'll sign documents and then now we can adjourn. So.
I move that we adjourn.
And I'm going to second it. And so we're now adjourned. So thank you. All right, we will start signing documents.
Have a good night, Madeline.